Welcome everybody to the third episode of the Hewkii and Flammeus show. Very excited to be here. Yeah, welcome. We had a very interesting conversation, long conversations, our longest episode yet. Almost 3 hours, between 2 and 3 hours. You can tell on your wherever you're streaming this right now by how long this episode is, probably. And our guest's name is
Dane Curley.
Dane Curley.
Dane is a super interesting dude, musician. Just, we cover a wide range of stuff and very surprising conversation, actually, like with how many directions we took it.
Yeah. Dane's self-commentary was that he was a world-class conversation derailer, I believe. So a couple of times we just followed the train wherever it led us, and I mean we allowed it to go very far, very deep into some very interesting topics, and in the end I think it was all very worth it, and I think you'll enjoy this conversation as much as we did. We went into stuff like freaking psychedelics. I mean, the main intention was the album he just released, the Cosmic Collaboration Machine, obviously, but then we went into tribal mysticism and folk tales, and Dane went into his story with religion. He was raised Catholic, and where he stands on that stuff now, and so there's lots of stuff here aside from just the music.
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground, and it was a lot of fun, most of all. It was very funny, a lot of humor, good times.
Good times. And here you go. Without further ado, we bring you Dane Curley. Oh my God. Here we are. Welcome to the show, Dane Curley. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you. The honor is mine. Pleasure to be here. Happy to be here. What am I, the third episode ever for you guys?
Yeah, we're just getting this show on the road. Thanks for joining us this early. Thanks for sponsoring the concept. One of the early
this
ones.
Early. I'm in New Jersey where it's 12:15 p.m. So all good.
Right. I think we meant more early on in our careers, but early on for you as well, I guess.
I just had this big question mark on my face for a second.
It's funny. That didn't even occur to me, and now it's so obvious. But it didn't even occur to me because, I've seen your music, and I know that podcasts tend to be this second branch off of whatever the primary thing that people are doing is, right? So, a comedian has a podcast, but he's a comedian. A musician has a podcast, but they see themselves as musicians. And the podcast seems to be this vehicle for creating this amazing piece of behind the scenes content. Yeah. And that the behind the scenes content can fuel an audience on its own now is the magic of podcasts. But, I haven't been able to crack the wizard spell of how to make any podcast successful, so I wish you luck.
Hey, we'll keep chipping away, see what happens.
We are existing in the ocean of infinite podcasts at the moment. So.
Right.
You don't want to know the stats of how many minutes of podcast gets uploaded every second to Spotify.
Ooh.
Anyway.
I can't imagine. They say there's 10,000 songs a day. I think that might even be an understatement. Now,
I heard something like 30,000.
Yeah, probably now, because now there's so much bunk AI slop getting uploaded too. There's fake artists. It's wild.
It's wild.
Well, there's a couple interesting topics, alternative topics coming up in there already, like people talking past each other. That was such a hilarious moment. You say something and it gets totally misunderstood.
Of course, I'm the one who got talked past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you, honestly. But me and Hewkii would love to dive into the album.
There it is.
There it is.
Maybe you can maybe give a brief introduction of yourself and where you're based, what you've been doing creatively, and all that stuff, and that leads us into the Cosmic Collaboration Machine. There it is.
Oh my God!
It's mirrored though, isn't it? That's okay.
We get a link in the show notes. you want one.
Yeah, sure. No, you don't have to. I'm already. Look how shameless this is. It's like it's like a product placement here. We've been.
There
on the
should be no
2
shame
minutes.
in plugging your
There's
music.
no shame, brother. It's good stuff.
Yeah,
I've listened to it.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy to hear that. I'm glad that you liked it. It's the musical project of my life, which is saying something because I'm 36 years old, and I made this last year. I finished it last year for Bicycle Day 2024, and because it's so psychedelic. So
Funny, I recently got a Bicycle Day themed tattoo over here.
Oh, look at that!
Yeah, it's based on the Hoffman artwork.
Yeah, totally. Very cool. I like how he's floating off the bicycle.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask this dumb question that just came to me. What is Bicycle Day?
Oh, sure. Bicycle Day is the day that the chemist Albert Hoffman essentially discovered the psychedelic effects of LSD, because LSD had been discovered already. It was in the laboratory, but they really didn't know what it was good for. And then apparently he got it through his hands. And then he realized, holy hell.
He took like a ridiculous amount of it,
he was
orders
tripping.
of magnitude more than the recommended. Yeah,
they didn't have the dosage right, and one of the things that was so special about it was how potent and powerful it was at the microgram level. Yeah. And that's why people in pop culture now, there's a musical group called 10,000 Mics, which would be like this insanely massive psychedelic hit.
I think it's 1,200 mics, but that's still an insane amount.
1,200 mics. Yeah, 1,200 mics. And I should know that. I love their music. Yeah, I'm actually mixing one of their songs, Mescaline. They have a song called Mescaline. There's a lot of psychedelic drugs going on in this psychedelic music community. But yeah, Bicycle Day, Albert Hoffman rode home on his bicycle from work. He worked in a pharmaceutical laboratory, and it was a wild ride home.
So that's why. See, I didn't know about the bicycle ride. I think I know every other part of that story. But all right, no.
Oh yeah, the bicycle ride is fun. So so Bicycle Day, and what's cool about that is that you can wear a Bicycle Day shirt or a Bicycle Day hat, and no one is associating it with drug use.
Yeah.
So you can go to your kids, concert at school and wear your Bicycle Day regalia, and none the wiser. It really looks like the famous Bicycle Day art looks like a poster for the Tour de France.
Right. Oh, it's so funny also, because this has been seeping in a little bit into the mainstream, and apparently there was some news station that wished everybody a happy Bicycle Day because people thought it was just a national day for riding their bikes.
Right.
That's definitely what I would have assumed. Why wouldn't one? It's an
I think it's Hewkii can correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's April 21st.
I think it's actually April 19th.
Yes.
Which leads very smoothly into 420.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. It's April 19th.
Oh, wow.
And then I think the reason I have two dates in my mind is as the story goes, the way that history unfolds, I think some people may change dates around to make them more convenient so that it does roll into 420 for the sake of the holiday. In America, is July 4th really the day of the independence? Was that the day that it was just declared? When did they actually sign the Constitution? It's kind of that kind of deal, as I recall. Right. But I'm so many years out from studying psychedelic history and culture because I'm an old man now, and I was getting into it in my early 20s, that's when I was reading the books and reading the literature, and LSD, My Problem Child, written by Albert Hoffman, which was an incredibly, illuminating book because right there in the title, My Problem Child, and that gave me a new perspective where it wasn't just all fun and games. This drug, chaos. This powerful drug with potential real ramifications, and something to really think about critically, not just recreationally.
Yeah, there can be a lot of naivete around this where people just try it once and oh my God, this is amazing. Everybody should do this. We should put it in the water supply. It will save our world.
And that happened. Yeah. And Timothy Leary took that route. And in taking that route, you know, he became a pariah, but maybe rightfully so. I think he was being a little loosey-goosey with the juicy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I mean, that was his whole shtick, though.
Yeah. I mean, his whole I mean, he became like LSD is God guy, you know, and he was a proselytizer of this new religion, this new psychedelic religion. But, you know, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. He was also probably responsible for bringing it to the pop culture in the first place. And, you know, it started at Harvard, and it sometimes takes somebody of great prestige and power in order to get something into the pop culture. Like, these things don't just pop up like mushrooms. You know, these things are created in laboratories, and that can be very scary. And it can seem like, well, I don't want to go anywhere near something that's created in a laboratory. Like, is there a prescription for that? But the way Timothy Leary was just saying, it's great, it's great, it's great, it's great.
Yeah.
And this merry band of folks like, you know, Ram Dass and all these people, and they all went in their different branches, and they all ended up processing it in different ways. And then you have the Beatles were doing it. Yeah. All this stuff helps and matters. But anyway, I'm no historian, not on psychedelic history or of any subject matter, but it is fascinating stuff. And it does really lend into music and music culture, particularly because of this 1960s in America and England, you know, in particular with the countercultural revolution that was protesting the Vietnam War, and the music that was coming out of that era, to me, was always the greatest generation of music. And, you know, as you get older and more distant from being a teenager listening to Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd, as you get, and the Doors, and it goes on, as you get older and more distant from that, you go, okay, actually, there's a lot of really brilliant and amazing music today. It's just not taking the position in society that the countercultural music of the 60s took. So in the 60s, it felt like that was music, that psychedelic music was music. And that's what was popular, and that's what was guiding a generation. But really, it wasn't. You know, it was it took up a share of space the way all music takes up a share of space. And if you traveled back in time, you could turn on a radio station and not hear any of that at all. You know, you could be listening to Hank Williams, or, you know, some, you know, the Okie from Muskogee, you know. So there's like a totally different world that was there at the same time too. So we all have our biases and preferences. And once you started getting that, you went, oh wow, psychedelic music, like, it's still here, and it's actually it's very culturally relevant, and it's subculture right now, but not necessarily forever. Things come in, you know, the pendulum swings.
It's grown a lot, I gotta say.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, you look at, like, psytrance is massive in certain parts of the world. The festivals are just gigantic, you know, but a lot of people live in their American or UK bubble. Obviously not you two, for literal reasons, but I certainly did, and I'm guilty of that for sure. And you just kind of, once you start exploring more and more, which takes time. It takes time because you have to go down so many branches and so many threads musically, and you have to actually sit there and listen to this massive quantity of sounds and music and different artists. And, you know, I'm an album listener, and I say that with great snobbery and pride, because I think if you listen to an album, it is a different experience. And there have been so many artists who design albums, and they design their albums to be listened to from the top to the bottom. And that's something that, you know, I mean, I think that some people do just produce singles. And
I meant us three here. We take that
absolutely.
Yeah, certainly.
And, you know, but so many people listening maybe have never even heard an album if they're younger and they've got Spotify.
So what's the underlying message, or what binds your recent release together? I want to start with that perspective.
Yeah, so there's two aspects. So it's called the Cosmic Collaboration Machine. It is not a various artists collection. It's not a collection of different songs. It has one arranger, who is me, and I, really wanted to collect different musical voices, sonic voices, styles, but all from the basis of the psychedelic, I was going to say lexicon, but it's not a language, but the psychedelic sphere of musicality, which is a lot more diverse than people realize. There's so many kinds of psychedelic music. And, I wasn't trying.
I'll just start by confirming that your album is very, it covers a lot of ground in terms of genre musically.
That's what I love about it. And that's something I really wanted to touch on, because like psytrance, there can sometimes, like, these scenes can start off something new and then they can devolve into a certain kind of conservatism of, like, it has to be this kind of BPM, it has to be this kind of beat, and this is just the music, it has to be. And your album is so diverse, it covers so much ground, and that's like also what I seek for a lot in music and in my own music, is that I love blurring the distinction between the genres. And like your album goes from like classic rock to psytrance to metal to hip hop to like even some housey stuff in there. It's got fucking everything under the sun, and I fucking love that about that album.
Can I just say,
Thank you so much.
I tuned into it while high just the other day for the first time. I smoked it up, and
How'd that go?
It went really well, but like just a couple songs in there, I was too high for it. Just in that moment, it's just like, okay. Like when the metal song hit, I was like, all right, okay, and the one where there's an exorcism going on, I don't remember what that one's called. Oh, darn.
Exorcism.
But you know what I mean, though. Tell them what song I mean.
LSD 55, probably.
No.
It's a psychedelic researcher, and the woman you hear the woman, and then you kind of hear what's going on in the mind as the LSD trip takes hold, where it's like that kind of noise.
Yeah. There's another one where there's a man kind of screaming out like an incantation or something. It sounds like a sermon, It sounds like a really
maybe
intense...
you're just that high that you
know what I mean?
Something that was not there.
It was a hallucination, Flammeus. That song doesn't exist. That's the Min Culpa Tulpa. Yeah, the Min Culpa Tulpa.
Right. Yes, I remember the name when you say it, because I remember picking up my phone, seeing what the song was called, and just being like, just immediately relating like difficult emotions with it, because I was like, it's like, wow, this is so like evil right now. I can't take it.
That is certainly your experience, Flammeus.
Not that it's not high quality music, obviously.
It's a great song. It's actually one of my favorites. And wait, that's the one that goes through, like, there's a story of some mythological tribal being or something along those lines.
That's exactly right. And it comes from Australian Aboriginal mythology. And it is something that they really believed in, but I gave it my own story arc where this mythological being there's a time travel aspect there, and what he's seeing in the different, coming from being a tribes person, mythologically imagining. So there's a lot of metaphor, and it's a little, it's not nothing literal about that song, but imagining kind of like, what if that tribal person were to imagine that they were, working a 9-to-5 job in Manhattan in a cubicle. That's kind of the essence of what I had in me when I was writing the lyrics to that.
Right. Interesting. Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm hearing the ending to the story, or the arc of the story for the first time now, because I was like, I heard...
Yeah, I mean, I'm literalizing it here. It's not literal in the lyrics. But
yeah, and something like, they realized that they had been in this place 10,000 years ago. Something along those lines.
Exactly. That's the thing, is that when you think of tribal cultures, which I think, and this might be a hot take, but I think tribal cultures are inherently psychedelic, whether or not they're taking psychedelic drugs in order to be that way. I don't think that the psychedelic drug is necessary for a psychedelic experience or a psychedelic culture. I think truly ancient tribes, especially tribes that have that are not necessarily hunter-gatherer, but that are localized, especially if they're local to a jungle or a forest, or somewhere, or a desert, like in the Aboriginals' case, somewhere that's harsh, difficult to survive in, and they're not doing a lot of wandering the way that the European hunter-gatherers did, where they're finding a cave and then they're finding another cave and then they're going to another country where there's another cave, and there's a lot of like, we can find food and follow food. They do that in native North America as well. But in native South America and in native Africa and in native Australia, there was a bit of being trapped, and not entirely trapped, because of course you can, we know that migration was always happening, and because the historical record is clear there, that the bones are found in so many different places, and obviously that's the way humans evolved. We can track, where our not chromosomes, but where our DNA has led to, and that's.
You mean the Aborigines over there were definitely building boats in Oceania back in the day?
Well, that's how they got there. They had to get there through migration. But once they're there, and they've formed a culture, and that culture has resolved itself that this is who we are and this is where we are. And then they build these mythological stories, this structure for their own psyches that says, the universe was created here, we were born here, and this is all that there is, and this is all that there ever will be. And once you have a story like that, which they have in a lot of Amazonian tribes, which the Aboriginals certainly had in Australia, and which they had in Africa as well, once you have this total mythology, that says, it's a creation story, it's an origin story, and it's also a story that explains their society and that explains why things are the way they are. There's something, to me,
and potentially perhaps how the world's going to end as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great point. There's almost always this sort of, Ragnarok, or there's this,
Ragnarök.
Yeah, we have that literally here. That's part of our native mythology.
I know. When I grew up, Ragnarok was the name of a spaceship in Final Fantasy VIII, but I later got to what it really was. But yeah, there's always something like that, and it's a total story is the point. It's a total story, and it's often a story that somewhat there are trappings that these mythological stories have. And I'm belaboring this because so much of mythology, a study of mythology, has been a hobby of mine. So much of that is in my music and lyrics. But the mythological stories of a certain culture that is a local culture, a non-traveling culture.
Stuck on an island in Oceania, say.
Let's say that exactly. There's a totality to it. It has trappings that keep you in that world, but it also has aspects that are extremely freeing, that allow you an imagination that would be wider than if you didn't have that culture. So there's an interesting, it's almost oxymoronic or hypocritical thing that's happening there, where it's like, this is how the world was made, this is who your gods are, this is what you believe, this is the stars, maybe those are holes in the ceiling that God poked, whatever the story is. And I'm not trying to belittle any one religion or culture or myth, but they have these interesting explanations for things that are not necessarily true. But then they also have this like wide berth of things to imagine. And like, well, did you hear about the trickster god who looks like a rabbit but actually can transform into a snake? Like, did you hear about that? Because that's the thing, and these things are so fantastical. And that's, it's so not real life that it ends up being this beautiful, interesting, psychedelic fantasy. And if you're actually picturing like, well, yeah, there's the rabbit transforming into the snake, and then you're having dreams about that trickster god, and you're like, the rabbit visited me. And everybody's like, oh shit, the rabbit visited.
But actually, like we learned last week with Martin Ball, it's just projections of the ego.
It's so funny because I've had exactly a lot of I've thought about precisely the same things as you're talking about here, like driving in the Icelandic countryside, looking at the mountains.
Such a vibe.
And thinking growing up in a scientific culture, it definitely has its pros, but it places certain constraints on your imagination.
Totally.
To the way that you start.
Week, you talked about Terence McKenna's Machine Elves with Dr. Ball, and you
listened to the episode.
Oh, of course. And you got to do your research even as a guest, right?
Yeah, nice.
And I agree with him totally that those are projections of one man's egos, because if you go and you don't hear that first, because that's important, once you hear it, you're so much more likely, because McKenna is such a gifted speaker. I mean, a real orator, and then with an incredible inflection on everything that he said, right? Like, and it's so impressive. And you hear this guy, and now that's affecting your ego, and it's affecting your imagination, and it's putting those seeds into you, which is why I think a study of so many mythologies, a comparative mythology, is so useful. I'm not going to proselytize that everyone needs to go out and get their, Joseph Campbell books, but I certainly did, and I think I benefited from that, from reading comparative mythology, because now I go, oh, that's just McKenna's mythology, and it's a very personal mythology to him. And it comes from when he was a kid. He must have heard stories of elves and gnomes and all stuff that I think is a little lame,
Irish.
Personally. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm not into elves and gnomes, so I'm never going to see elves and gnomes. It's not relevant to me at all. It's not spiritually relevant. It's not relevant to my personality. I don't think in terms of fairies and things like that at all. Even little glowing orbs. I think orb, and I'm like, that doesn't happen to me. Yeah. It doesn't happen at all. And yet, there have been times where you've seen the Buddha in the stars, and there's time where I've seen,
and yet
Jesus.
you eat mushrooms sized of like portobellos. That's
well, that's when you see the Buddha in the stars.
Yeah.
And and you see Jesus, who's like wrangling the universe, keeping good and evil together. And but no gnomes. So it comes from what was my childhood, what was your childhood, and in this case, what was the Aboriginals' experience. So anyway, long tangent.
Interesting one though.
Yeah, very good one.
And it's very funny because like Iceland is very secular now, but we have like Christian roots. And in a lot of my journeys, I've seen Christian imagery like crosses and Jesus and stuff. I'm not Christian, but this is what gets embedded in your subconscious as a kid, and that's what comes up. But the question is, do you take that literally or just as imagery and look to the deeper meaning of the message more so than just
it's a super important question that you just asked, because once you choose, and it is a choice, once you choose to take it literally, you're trapped by it. And it's okay to be trapped by it, because sometimes being trapped by something is very comfortable and it's helpful. And there are, that's like an age-old question that every kind atheist has is, well, is religion useful? Even though I don't believe, is it useful? Is it helpful? And you'll have the militant atheists who are like, no, it's not at all. And it's a harm for the world. And then you'll have others who are like, well, but maybe, it does provide a framework and maybe keep some people off drugs. And maybe, I know a lot of addicts who say, that their belief in Jesus is the only thing that they can cling to. And whenever they get a craving for a drug, they go to church or, certainly not my story, but it's out there.
Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's what you're saying again. And also, I feel like it brings it right back to the start of the podcast when I said people talking by each other. Past each other was the phrase. I was like, what is German, Icelandic, English? That's the one. People are talking past each other, which I feel like happens a lot in the between spiritual people or people who are religious in any way, and people who are fundamentally scientifically minded or were raised atheists. And I presume you were raised an atheist. Is that right?
No. I was raised Catholic.
No way.
So I'm from New Jersey, USA, and New Jersey is very Catholic, and so is New York City. That's changing because Catholicism is not holding root in Northeast United States very much. We are secularizing, and nevertheless, the people who live in New Jersey, northern New Jersey especially, but generally New Jersey, the people who live here are turn-of-the-century immigrants, because we had Ellis Island, which is right in between New York City and New Jersey. And Ellis Island is the great immigration wave. It was a processing center for people coming from Europe in particular. And so Irish, Italian,
very
and
tough
Polish.
Conditions, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Very, very, very tough, and a lot of resistance to that immigration. There's always resistance to immigration. It's scary for people.
Of course.
So, but there were three cultures that were immigrating in mass, and that was Italians, Poles, and Irish. And
Right.
I happen to be Italian, Polish, and Irish. That's my mix.
Wow.
So we call it the Catholic trifecta. So these are three of the most deeply Catholic nations, even still today. Ireland, Italy, obviously the
Yeah.
Rome,
With the Vatican Wall,
and Poland, which had a pope, John Paul.
So what's your stance now, and what was it with perhaps a little bit about your story as well, kind of growing into the psychedelic scene? How did that change your view on your upbringing and religion?
Oh man, I mean, always was what they call a seeker. It's a great
Same.
Who song. If you don't know it, yeah. They call me the seeker, and always looking and never finding.
Wait, what was that? Can you say the band again? With that,
The
that
Who.
song? The Who. All right.
The Who.
I don't think I've
Yeah.
heard that song. Anyway.
It's a fantastic song. It also kind of takes the piss out of being a seeker, and because you don't typically find, and there is an archetype of a seeker who's just constantly seeking,
Yeah.
and never gives that
It's
up.
supposed to wear itself out. It's a necessary stage, but like if you just get stuck in that, you're just gonna keep chasing your own tail. Eventually, you're
Yeah.
supposed to notice, hey, wait, I'm chasing my own tail over here.
Or pushing the rock up the
That's right.
hill.
I love that. Hey, look, I'm chasing my own tail. It's like, no, you're still a puppy. Like, you don't realize you're chasing your tail. It's just too much fun to keep chasing it.
Yeah, you're just like, oh my god, oh my god.
Yeah.
And at some
It's
point,
gonna be around the next corner. It's gonna be around the next corner. There's the tail.
there it is.
Yeah, I used to try to explain to people that psychedelic drugs, just like opiates, have their version of chasing the dragon. Do you know that phrase? Is that
Yes.
Yeah.
But what does it mean to you and most people, perhaps?
Yeah,
I'm
well,
not
for
super
most
familiar
people,
with
I
it.
think chasing the dragon is chasing a high that's perfect and feels the best, and always wanting to feel this perfect high, because it's often attributed to like heroin users, and like they don't have enough, so they need to take more, and they don't have enough, so they need to take more, and they don't have enough, so they need to take more, and by the time they take enough that gets them to the dragon eats them. That's how I think of it.
Interesting take. All right, so
South Park had a really good take on it, the Guitar Hero episode, and then they got really good at Guitar Hero, but then Heroin Hero comes on the scene, and the game is just like you're chasing a dragon and injecting yourself
That's
with heroin.
hilarious. I remember that episode, but I don't remember that part of it. That's so funny.
God, fucking South Park.
But then for psychedelic drugs, I think chasing the dragon is, dosing higher and higher, really thinking that you're finding something that is there. Maybe you're looking for God. Maybe you're looking to meet some beings. Like people talk about interdimensional beings. That's super common in the DMT taker, community. And sorry to all of you people, but I think that's complete bullshit. I don't think there's any aliens. You're not meeting people from another dimension. None of that's happening. You're going into yourself. You're going deeper into your psyche. And that's chasing the dragon, is you're not realizing that everything you find is you. It's all you. And you're chasing the dragon by labeling it anything other than you, and going in and saying, no, but I'm unearthing all these gems and I'm finding all these things, and they go in and they're digging and they're shoveling and they're shoveling and they're shoveling, and they don't realize that they're shoveling a hole into their own heads.
Yeah.
That's chasing the dragon.
Not a good way to put it, man.
Well, yeah, you keep digging in search of a center, but there isn't a core. There's no.
It reminds me of the Tool song Stinkfist. I'll keep digging.
Yes,
I
that's right.
find something.
That's the Tool there.
Yeah.
Many psychedelic guys like Tool too, huh?
Yeah, it's interesting because like there's not too much of an overlap between the psychedelic scene and the metal scene, and I feel like Tool is kind of the only one I can think of. Although I did listen to a lot of very heavy metal music when I was doing my journeys, and I found it to be very cathartic and helpful. I don't know if you know Meshuggah.
Oh yeah, I certainly wouldn't listen to them on a journey.
Oh, I used to bike and listen to Meshuggah on Chip Days.
Wow. Wow.
Hewkii, man.
Absolute
Jesus.
Flammeus
obliteration
couldn't even
station.
handle the cosmic collaboration machine. You're sugar.
Yeah, the thing is, like,
I
at
couldn't
a
handle
certain
the
stage,
cosmic
you're just
collaboration machine on weed.
well, I used to be rather, let's say, extreme. But you know, I had my face with that stuff maybe again one day. But the thing is, like, it really is so intimidating that it really pushes you past your boundaries of fear.
Yeah.
It puts you on the spot in that way. It's like it's harder to resist under those circumstances, basically.
So is that, do you recommend people try that at home?
No, I mean, like, you have to find out for yourself, like, what you can and can't handle. I imagine it'll make a lot of people scared or too intimidated. But for me, in that moment, it was an absolute blast. And, just go slow, find out what works for you, and
baby
don't take
steps.
anybody else's advice for how to do things in this field, because, like, what really works for one person may be the worst thing in the world for somebody else. And this is like such a trap for a lot of people. Like, they find out what really works for them is some kind of religion or some kind of meditation technique, and they're like, oh, everybody has to try this stuff.
Right.
Right. And people are just so diverse.
And you feel like everybody else is an idiot for not doing this thing.
Right. Yeah. I've got to start a cult around listening to Meshuggah on acid on bikes.
It's totally natural, especially the younger you are. The more you want to proselytize, you want to share things, you want to feel more comfortable, you want a community, you want people to agree with you. And
there's a phrase that goes like, when you're in love, you want to tell the world.
Yeah. That's nicely put. Exactly. And you can be in love with an idea.
You can be in love with riding a bike, listening to metal on a journey. Shall we wait? We had a couple questions that I kind of wanted to go back to.
Yeah, I really want to go to the bathroom and get some water real quick.
Okay. Cut. Okay, we're back.
We're back.
Surprise. So I want to take it back to the question about Catholicism and psychedelics, and kind of how you would you describe yourself as Catholic or religious in any way today?
I would say that I'm a lapsed Catholic, which essentially means that I don't believe in what Catholicism preaches, but I may believe in what it has to offer in other ways. I think, I'm atheist. I'm barely even hanging on to agnosticism, to be frank, and that's a little bit sad for me. I do think agnosticism is a little more fun than atheism. It's a little more interesting. You have more open doors. Unfortunately, this person, who he is, the brain he has inside of him, in this body, it's really programmed for atheism. It's really hard for me to believe in anything other than what's inside my own brain.
But have you tried? Both relate to that, yeah.
Have you tried 5-MeO? That is the de-atheistifier, if there ever is one.
I have not.
I mean, I never used to use that word God, but like at a certain stage, I had an on-dual experience that really flipped it for me. And like, when you have that particular kind of experience, that seems like the most natural word that comes out. And a lot of people share the same experience, but it's not God in the same way as portrayed in a religion. It's not a beardy guy in the clouds, like watching you in your bedroom.
Yeah.
It's the unified everything.
It's a word for the oneness.
Yes.
A word for the oneness. That's an album title. There we go.
Yeah, hell yeah. I think, some would call it like Satori enlightenment. That's how they would label that experience.
Exactly.
You're right. Yeah. I think I've had that, and then never fail to reprogram as soon as I come back to being baseline reality. Never fail to just go, okay, that's the thing that can happen.
Do you still feel like you've had that after listening to the conversation with Martin Ball, especially? Because it was kind of our conversation with Martin Ball in the last episode kind of opened my eyes. I was like, oh my shit! Like I've had I've had a handful of very deep psychedelic experiences, especially on psilocybin mushrooms. But talking to Martin, I was like, apparently I've never really experienced the non-dual state truly, you know. I have experienced very deep psychedelic states that I think in hindsight wrongly thought were non-dual, but were in fact just the ego kind of playing with itself a little bit still. So
I think it's so hard to say, you know, because it could also be that what Ball is describing is also just something that the ego is capable of doing. You know, nobody's actually gone in and mapped the ego. There's no cartographer of the mind. So I think, you know, that's certainly one way to explain it, is that it's unexplainable and that therefore ipso facto la-di-da-di-da. But it's also could be that Satori enlightenment is a construct of the human mind. And that Satori enlightenment was, you know, something that first of all, these drug experiences aren't the things that invented that concept. You know, the Buddhist tradition, I guess, invented that, or Hindu tradition invented that. Or I shouldn't say invented, perhaps discovered, labeled.
I guess you could conjecture different. I don't think there's a consensus on whether those teachings originated from psychedelics or not. But they certainly could have come from either way, as far as
well, the point I'm making, I think, Flammeus, is just that the experience, whoever invented it, wherever it came from, it's not necessarily, the experience isn't the label of the experience.
Right.
Yeah. There we go.
That's what I'm trying to say. The experience isn't what it's called.
Yeah.
So whatever he's calling it, it isn't. It's impossible to describe. And that, I think that was St. Thomas Aquinas of the Catholic tradition. St. Thomas Aquinas, I believe, and I could be butchering this because there's so many saints, but he's one of the big ones, along with St. Augustine. Yeah. And St. Thomas Aquinas, I believe, said that anything you can say about God is wrong because you can't describe God, because God is beyond your descriptions.
Yeah.
So, and that's a Catholic saint saying that. So, you know, that almost sounds like heresy to some other tradition. So
yeah, I mean, because the Bible certainly does say a lot of stuff about God.
But this is like, at some point I got why in Islam they're not allowed to portray the Prophet Muhammad or like to draw God, because like, I get the thought process behind it of like, you're never going to capture. But my view is that we can do our best. We can be further or closer from the truth with our words. And it goes back to that whole quote of, how does it go? If I speak, I'm a liar, but if I'm silent, I'm a coward. Yeah. Basically.
Yes.
So like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. You know, you gotta find your way.
Quote. Yeah. Or, you know, he who speaks does not know, and he who knows does not speak.
Yeah, and then Ram Dass says, "I'm both."
Yeah, and we all are. I suppose.
I think the interesting angle here coming from Catholicism is that Catholicism at its root, not in its present incarnation, but at its root, and maybe not in any incarnation, the root isn't always the flower, right? But Catholicism is deeply psychedelic. Deeply psychedelic. If you've ever walked into a cathedral when the sun is at the right place in the sky to beam the rays through the stained glass windows, it is, I'm getting goosebumps. It's magnificent stuff. Mm-hmm. Have you seen La Sagrada Familia? You know, have you seen these things? Have you seen these insane sculptures done with such precision and perfection with a chisel that is the result of a devotion to an image of God or an image of godly beings and divine, you know, humans and saints, and all of this stuff is incredibly psychedelic.
Yeah,
and the architecture is psychedelic, and so is a lot of Islamic architecture, you know, and these ideas. I just think it's unfortunate whenever someone forces a label onto them, this experience is this. This experience is enabled to you by our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who died for our sins, and that's the only reason that this church is here. That's the only reason that this, and you have to worship him, and you got to say 10 Hail Marys tonight because I saw a glint in your eye that didn't look good. That's Catholicism. That's where they go wrong for me.
That evil glint.
Yeah, there was an evil glint. I mean, I saw you looking at little Betty, your 13-year-old eyes. Yeah, a little horniness there, wasn't there, son?
Oh, there we go. There we go. Haven't found the Playboy magazines yet. We're on it. Yeah,
but it's a deeply psychedelic culture, and its willingness to portray God, I think, is part of that. Its creativity, and there was a time when the Catholic Church was less censoring of art. And then at some point, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but at some point, I don't know if it was a pope or it was a leader in Italy, but there was a leader, an authoritative figure who decided no more penises in art. And so someone, after Michelangelo painted all the penises with great delicacy and detail, he said, I'm going to paint these penises with perfection because I'm Michelangelo and everything's going to be good. Someone went over and painted cloths over them and added their own touch to it. So, they weren't clothed in all the original. In the Sistine Chapel, there were cocks abounding.
So that guy just neutered in the entire world, basically.
That's right.
That one guy
put the fig leaves on everybody and all this stuff. And yeah, absolutely.
Just because of his own internalized sexual repression. It's always some guy with internalized sexual repression. But actually, I want to touch on something because we speak about portraying God. And you have behind you a...
I'm sorry, I just need to... All human disasters can be traced back to a single man with repressed sexual desires.
Yes. That would certainly be the Freudian interpretation of history. I'm more of a Carl Jung guy, but
went up both.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on, you have behind you the Net of Being.
What was wrong?
Which is
Net of Being by Alex Gray. Yeah.
And I have here actually.
Oh yeah, you're wearing on your current. Oh, that's okay. Yeah, Net of Being. But your current shirt is Ocean of not Ocean of Bliss. Yeah, Ocean of Bliss. I think it's called.
I think so.
Yeah, something to the Ocean of Cosmic
Alex
Bliss.
Gray. Mm-hmm. Yeah, something along those lines. But like he's one of the people in recent history who has found a way to exquisitely and precisely map out the visionary state.
Yeah,
and, some people even criticize that he's too explicit, that he doesn't leave enough room for interpretation. Or,
and I would say that the only thing wrong with the sentence you just said is that it's not the visionary state; it's his visionary state.
Exactly. But the thing is that there's a lot of commonality, and this is why a lot of people relate to his art, because this is not just a personal thing. This is, Jung would say the collective unconscious, or some these. This is obviously not just a projection of his mind, even though in some cases that may be a part of it.
It's still a human mind, right?
Yes, exactly. But what's interesting is that, if I'm not mistaken, you had Alex Gray personally involved on your album, which is... And you also had Simon Posford. For me, collaborating with Simon Posford is like collaborating with Michael Jackson or Prince, even better. In my book, that's an amazing feat to have accomplished. So I'm just curious about how those things came about. And we ran into each other in the Spangle group. Mr. Flammeus over here has never listened to Spangle, so we're gonna have to get our indoctrination.
I just put my mic on the table. I was like, I'll let the guys riff.
Yeah. So I'm just curious how those things came to be.
Yeah, and thank you for everything that you've said so far. I think Simon's involvement was much more hands-on than Alex Gray's. Alex was just kind enough to grant me permission to use his voice, and we did meet. We met briefly at Cosm, and had a brief chat about it. But man, those Grays, Allison and Alex, are so busy. They've got event after event after event going there. But fortunately for me, it's in a place called Wappingers Falls, I think they're in. And it's about an hour and a half drive from where I live.
Did you go to the temple?
Today.
The Cosm.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Oh,
yep.
right. Yeah. So those guys, for those who don't know,
live there.
They built a temple together.
Yeah, and it's magnificent. It's unfinished because they're putting so much money into it. I mean, it's amazing. And they live there on this, what's essentially a compound. I think it's a 3-building compound. One is like, it's called the Gray House, where they live, but also where they do, I don't know, 75%, I'm throwing out a number, of their business operations from there. And they host events, and they host parties, and they do ceremonies. And then there's another building that's just kind of like shipping, warehouse, trucks going in and out, because they've got their online merch sales, or not merch, but art. Some of it's merch, clothing, and things like that. And then they have another building, which is the temple, which is the actual Cosm, which stands for COSM, Chapel of Sacred Mirrors. And
wow,
it's a beautiful, beautiful location in New York State. And it's really nearby me. And so I've, felt a little bit of connection with their art. And not only because of how excellent it is, but also, and by the way, I've never had any personal experience anywhere remotely similar to that or that or that. I just haven't had them. So that doesn't take anything away from it for me. I think that it's a beautiful interpretation of an experience or experiences.
I definitely, just for quick reference, I definitely find the painting behind you right now very eerily accurate.
I've had very similar ones.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Wow.
Sorry.
Makes me want to sink into that painting. So Alex was kind enough to grant official permission, and that is a big deal because a lot of people do try to steal Alex's content, of both AIs trying to steal his art, and also there have been musicians who have put out unauthorized releases. And so Alex has a reputation of working with really credible and excellent psychedelic musicians, and he asked to hear the song before I put his voice on it. After I put his voice on it, he gave a very mild criticism that I did not make his voice psychedelic enough. He said, he was like, I was really hoping you would, make it even more psychedelic. And so
it's
we
very
did.
Psychedelic.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
we changed it. Yeah. We were like, great, because I was kind of concerned, like, I don't want to mess with his words. I don't want to change his word. But he was like, go more, do more. So we did. And when I say we, I mean me and Zeno Ben is the other artist on that song who I worked with.
That's the song. That's Visionary Theater.
That's right. The Visionary Theater, which has a fabulous remix by Silkworm and Geodyne. It's one of my favorite remixes. It's very psychedelic house, psychedelic techno kind of.
So you released the cosmic remixing machine of other people remixing this album, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
I haven't dove into it yet. But
that's actually free on Bandcamp right now. I just made it free this week. So the Cosmic Remixing Machine, it's a digital only, whereas the Cosmic Collaboration Machine, there's obviously a vinyl. But the digital only edition is name your price, so you can shamelessly pick it up for free or toss $1 tip or whatever anybody wants to do. So that's available. It's really great. It has an amazing remix of the song I did with Simon Posford called LSD 55. It had that song, which is an electronica song, has a Psytrance remix by Zeno Ben that's mind-blowing. So anyway, and there's a lot on there. There's so many great songs on the remixing machine. But I digress.
Is that one not on streaming services?
It is. It should be available on everywhere.
All right. Just
Bandcamp, but you can get the high-res, high-fidelity Bandcamp waves or FLAC or whatever.
Gotcha. Yeah, makes sense.
And which comes with a digital files of the art and all that stuff.
Awesome.
So that was the story with Alex Gray, which that's really the nice beauty part of that story is that he wanted it to be more psychedelic. And then I met him and that was nice. But I don't have too much contact with Gray. He's so busy. He's very hard to get a hold of. And the same can be said for Simon Posford, but Simon Posford is a bit more chatty on this Facebook group called now it's called the Spangle Family. It used to just be a Spangle Facebook group. And so this is relevant to how he gets involved.
Wait, Hewkii, are you still in this group?
I am, yes. I have spoken to Simon on a few occasions, and we joked about like that I would get him a collaboration with Björk if he would do a collaboration with me.
Oh, that's right.
I'm one handshake away from her, actually.
Oh yeah, one handshake. Huh?
One handshake away. I know a guy.
I'll settle for Aurora. Where's she from? I love Aurora.
Oh,
she's like my modern Björk.
I think she's Norwegian. Pretty sure she's Norwegian. I might be wrong though. She's not Icelandic. That's for sure. Then she would be called Aurora. For anybody interested.
Still is called that.
Yeah.
So Alex Gray also, and this was not arranged with him directly, but with a member of his staff. This is really cool news. I don't know if it's for sale yet, but they have their own edition of the Cosmic Collaboration Machine. It is a very limited run of 50 copies. I can't sell it to you. I don't know how you can buy it, but it's on hand at Cosm. So I assume they're going to put it out in their merch store. It may only be able to be purchased by visitors to that chapel. And in that chapel is all of the full size Alex Gray and Allison Gray work. And when you see I'm proud of this size of this copy. For reference, you can see it's pretty large.
Yeah.
The real one would be the size of the wall of my house that I live in.
It's insane.
No way.
It's absolutely gigantic. And it is so amazing to see it in person. I can't recommend it any higher. You got to get to Cosm, make the pilgrimage. It is a psychedelic reliquary, not just of art. And it's not just Alex Gray's art. They have all of these, they have real paintings from psychedelic artists throughout the modern era. From like the 70s, I think they have some paintings from the 70s that are like, wow, I've never even seen this style of art before. It's amazing painting. And they have memorabilia, historical memorabilia. They have Albert Hoffman's glasses. They have all sorts of like cool, interesting things. They have a bust of him, a sculptured bust of Albert Hoffman.
I just looked up their website. It looks like they got some events going on all the time as well over there.
There's always events, music, concerts, art stuff.
Yeah, I think Goldcap, who I'm a fan of, a couple of their songs, he's performing like a 4-hour producer DJ set for their Deities and Demons Masquerade Ball, which is like their Halloween event that they do every year. And that's, a 4-hour, Goldcap. He's really fantastic electronica producer.
Nice. Well, it's if anybody wants to visit their website, it's cosm.org. Surprisingly,
and an interesting trivia about that temple is that they had Alex and Alison Gray an MDMA experience together, and they had a vision of this temple together, a shared vision, and they decided to make it a reality. So that was the origin story of this particular chapel of sacred mirrors.
I love that. It's such a story you've heard like 10,000 times at the same time as well.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, not everybody actually materializes their vision.
Sorry,
of that scale.
I'll scale down to like 3 times for people who've had a vision and then actually came true. Anyway,
right.
Go ahead.
Go for it.
So the other piece to the question, Hewkii, is the Simon Posford piece.
Yeah.
So this is the simplest part. So we digressed so far, but Flammeus was asking at the very beginning of this conversation, what were the ties that bind, or I think it was Flammeus who asked, the ties that bind this project together. And so the one was the sphere, and I answered that part, the sphere of psychedelic music and culture, and how wide it is and how much there is to explore there. The other piece, little tiny piece, which we also touched on, is that I'm an album listener. And so I wanted to create an album. So I couldn't do that by just selecting a bunch of artists and saying, hey, send me a song, and I'll throw it on this collection. That wouldn't work. It wouldn't be an album. It wouldn't listen properly, especially it would be like a cacophony, like you said, like once I got to the metal, I wasn't in the right headspace for that. Well, imagine how hard that would be if it was just a random metal song and not a metal song that was explicitly produced to be psychedelic and to follow the song that preceded it. Yeah. So, that was a real great challenge to make this album flow across, it's a double vinyl, so across 4 sides of a vinyl.
It's a long album.
It actually makes sense. Yeah. So that is 2 pieces of the puzzle there. And then the third one was the fact of it being collaborative, because I knew that. So here's the thing. I had quit my job. I knew that I needed a break from 9 to 5 employment. I knew that I needed that. And I had gotten to meet this drummer from Sweden. And his name is Marcus Roselle, who's actually the drummer of the metal track, and he plays guitar on that track as well. So Marcus Roselle was, at the time, he was the drummer for a band called Dead by April, massive band out there in
the Swedish metal scene.
Yes, which is a big metal scene.
It's a big one.
Yeah, it extends far out from Sweden. So
Viking metal. So going around the world, of course. Yeah.
So he told me that after I met him through serendipity. I met him through, I had worked for a company that was putting on martial arts fighting events. That company's called Karate Combat, and it's real fighting by real talented fighters, and it's brutal, and it's impressive, and it's beautiful, and it's all of those things. And he was the best friend of a fighter named Erickson Samuel, who I really hit it off with. Erickson and I just get along beautifully and became good friends through this job. And so one day Erickson had a fight, and he brought his friend to come to the fight, and I met him, and he was this drummer guy. And I was like, oh, you're a drummer? I'm a musician too, And he was like sincerely interested in listening to my music. I didn't tell him about it. It was before the Cosmic Collaboration Machine was out. At the time, most of my music was rap, which there is some rap on the Cosmic Collaboration Machine, but mostly I was a lyricist and a vocalist. And but I had a handful of songs I put out on Spotify that were ambient and that were electronica. And 3 months go by from when I meet him. He goes back to Sweden, and 3 months later he comes back and he asks me for a meeting. He says, I'd like to have a business meeting with you. I was like, oh, that's very formal and very Swedish. People don't talk like that in America. I have a business meeting with you. What are you talking about? And
they are pretty formal in Sweden.
Yeah. And my red flags went up immediately. I didn't know him well yet, and I'm just like, business meeting. He probably thinks I'm richer than I am. Maybe he thought my job was better than it is. Maybe he needs me to invest in one of his projects. That was what I genuinely assumed. But I'm a very nice person. Even though I assumed that, I said, let me take his meeting. Mm-hmm. He was a nice guy. I take his meeting. It's the exact opposite. It's him telling me that in the 3 months since I met him, he'd been listening to my ambient and electronica songs on repeat, and that he loves them so much, and that he's been listening and listening, and that, hey, I'm not just a drummer, I'm actually a programmer and a designer, and that's actually my real passion. I'm like, oh, which is so bizarre because you're a professional drummer, but his real passion is engineering and programming, and he wants to make a video game. And he said, your music is the soundtrack to my video game. I cannot picture anyone else's music. Ever since I heard yours, you're the composer of my video game. How can we make this work? How can we work together? Long story short, that gave me new confidence in my music that had died in me, frankly, that was gone. I didn't believe in my music. I thought that it was like, no, I'd release it on Spotify just because, like, what else am I going to do?
When was this exactly?
This was about a year before the Cosmic Collaboration Machine. So this is very recent, like 2023, maybe right. 2022. And that just like, I go, click, I'm a musician, click. I can say that proudly. And one of the reasons I didn't say it proudly is because I'm a computer musician. And, there's so many people who are like, well, computer music isn't music and you're not a real musician. You use a laptop. A laptop's not an instrument and And it's like, I had that really was affecting me mentally. I really felt like I'm not a real musician because I use a laptop instead of a guitar.
Dude, I mean, I just want to take a moment to connect that to all the musicians out there listening right now who are, for one reason or another, feel like they're not a quote unquote real musician. I feel like there's a lot of reasons people find to deny themselves the privilege of proudly presenting themselves and their art to the world as they should.
Yeah, and to themselves. That's the hardest part.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that your music will become so much better once you identify with your own abilities and your own talents and your own drive. And even if you're not at the level that I am of having learned and mastered how to create music, it's still, when I was rapping, for whatever reason, I've been rapping since I'm 10 years old, and I've been recording rap since I'm 13 years old. And I mean, I've recorded hundreds of rap songs. I'm not exaggerating when I use that number. Hundreds, maybe not 1,000, but it's up there. Possibly 500 songs. So, I really knew, like, I'm a fucking rapper. I'm hot shit. I'm fucking awesome. I rap. I'm good at it. And even when I was 13 and I sucked at it, I was thinking that, which could be a bit of egomania, but that drove me. That belief, that self-belief kept pushing me and driving me to where rap at the time online was a hostile culture. It was people putting you down all the time. You suck. You had to battle. You had to fucking fight people. You had to, people were calling you saying you suck. You're whack. Quit. Go quit. And you'd be like, no, I'm fucking hot shit. I'm a fucking rapper. And then you get good and you get better and you get better. And by the time I was 15, I was battling adults and beating them.
You were doing rap battles back in the day.
Oh yeah.
That's hard.
So it was fucking hard. It was hard, and it is hard. And I have so much respect for battle rappers, even though many of them are assholes and they never get nice. But their talent is real, and
it's not just a mask they put on stage.
No, I mean, some people it is. Many people it's not, and I don't blame them because it is such a hostile environment that for some people that's what you need to push through it. You need to be really tough and really
Your mask becomes who you are if you wear it for a long time.
Gotta be careful, not fall into the Jim Carrey trap. Be Jim Carrey at the end of the mask when he throws the mask into the river. Just you wanna.
So, but then when I got into making my own instrumentals, by way of rap, by way of being a rapper, I just didn't have that confidence, and I didn't get it for a long time. And I was making music for a long time, but not releasing it. And I finally released it. And then Marcus Roselle, who is a professional musician, he's currently on tour with another band, Smash to Pieces, Smash into Pieces.
I thought you were going to say Smash Mouth.
No, not Smash. They have a great song.
Somebody once told me the world. Okay, this
He's
is
not in that band. I'm pretty sure that man is passed away. I'm pretty sure. R.I.P. Smash Man. No, so when he told me, I was like, oh, why haven't I thought of myself the way he thinks of me? And that's the power of a great friend and a great a talented friend just saying that they think you're awesome. And it's like, wow, okay, I'm more awesome than I thought I was. And with that, I became re-empowered, and I said, okay, I'm going to compose this video game. That's, happening. And then I'm going to, I also have because I quit my job, I have other time. So I can really do something special. What do I want to do with all this time before my money runs out and I have to get a job again that pays well, more well than hawking your own vinyl, which pays nothing, by the way. Breaking even is, 350 copies, which I just made, and that's a lot. That's a lot of vinyl. So, yeah, right. I mean, thank you. It's hard to sell music.
I know,
especially physical, especially as like a fucking nobody. So,
brothers on the path.
yeah, I know. We're like the three amigos here. But then once I had that, I said, I know what I want to do. I want to make an album, which I hadn't done since I'd made a rap album in 15 years prior. I said, I know it has to be an album, and I know I want to put great care in it, and I know that I want help because my childhood dream for myself as a musician was to be the front person of a band, was to be the vocalist, whether it's rap, rock vocals, whatever vocals were necessary. I wanted to be the front person, and then I wanted to, maybe add a little bit of pizzazz with the laptop, just a little bit, and that would be who I was, and that would be what my future was. And it never happened. I got close. I was in an emo band, as we call them, and then I joined the Air Force for financial reasons. So I said, hey guys, wait for me. I'm going to join the Air Force. Let me come out and then we'll record the album. They thought that was a great idea. But then once 6 months went by, they got tired of waiting. They hired another vocalist and the band imploded. They recorded their demo. The band imploded. And they kindly told me, hey, we should have waited for you, but it's too late now. I'm going to go to college, whatever people say.
No way.
Yeah, and we had a great producer who was very successful. There was a great studio we were recording in. We prepared 4 songs, and then the band imploded. But anyway, you get tastes along the way of tastes of, oh, I do like this. I do like being in a band. I do like being the front person. These guys keep telling me they like my voice. Like, I hate my voice. So when other people are telling me I like my voice, that's such a powerful feeling. It's such a great vibe and such a great thing. And
I like your voice.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I mean, it's very mediocre for singing, but I have a range.
I thought it was excellent, actually.
Really?
This brings me into a compliment I've been dying to give you for this entire episode.
Please,
so
I need
far.
this. I need this.
This is, like I said, the songs, like, because obviously this is going to be true for a lot of people who go in and listen to this album. Like, it's so. I don't want to say eclectic because it is, it makes sense as a collection of songs. Like
it's diverse.
It's diverse. That's
Bird flows. Also.
It does. But with all this diversity, it means that, like, there's a certain type of songs that I like over other types of songs.
Of course.
And so the songs that hit the sweet spot for me on this album were the rap songs, because this is the kind of rap that I really love. And for anybody who wants to listen in, I'm talking about 2 songs in particular. First
Fear
one
and Loathing
is
in Lost Spaces.
Fear and Loathing in Lost Spaces, and then there's Shahi Kila. Those, I mean, I want to ask you about Fear and Loathing in a second, because apparently that's a remaster from some other time. But Shahi.
But it's made out of because I'm familiar with Easily Embarrassed, which we're on that track with you, and legends also in the psychedelic music scene. But this, I recognize that this was constructed out of one of their songs that they had released previously, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, Lazy Mushroom.
Yes, that's a great song. People should go listen to Lazy Mushroom.
Lazy Mushroom by
Easily Embarrassed, who is the other artist on the song Fear and Loathing in Lost Spaces.
Got it.
Which is the one rap song. And Shahi Kila is the other. That's with an artist from Pakistan named Farasat Anis.
And I wanted to say about Shahi Kila, that's one where you kind of sing the chorus. On the other one, you kind of still rap. There's a spoken rapped chorus, but on Shahi Kila, there's a sung melodic chorus. And I was just like, it's just like, I thought your voice was perfect for that. Is the compliment I was getting to. It's really, really
Thank you. Thank you. I'll have to do more melodic sung choruses.
Ah,
I mean, hit me up anytime if you need.
We're actually working on a song now, me and Dane, and it is for my upcoming album. And I have actually the cover art here. I got so tired of seeing like AI cover art popping up, so I had 2 people do a painting for me. Canvas. And if you look closer, you'll see all the crazy details.
Oh, very
it's
cool.
2 artists.
That's wild.
That one of them is a collage artist. Got my logo on it. So that's coming up probably, I'd guess, early next year. But
yeah, and there is a rap on that, so it's very relevant. So that is another psychedelic rap. Although we did cut the melodic chorus.
Well, the thing is, I was actually listening back to it, and I was like, it could be cool actually to reintroduce it, but this is still under construction, so we'll figure that one out.
I'll just keep floating around in the ether here, hoping to get picked up for some chorus along the way.
Yes.
Yeah, both of you guys are on this upcoming album, actually.
Oh, cool.
Separate
good.
Collaborations.
We're both on there. That's awesome.
Yeah. We got a song on there as well. It's the intro jingle for the podcast. Even it's.
Oh yeah. Oh, very cool. Very cool.
And actually, it was like I have a lot of collaborations on there, and that was in part inspired by the collaborative nature of the Cosmic Collaboration Machine. I was like, that's a very cool concept. And I thought, like, I may want to do a collaboration album, but I instead just did one that has a lot of collaborations on it.
Yeah, the collaboration concept, I got some heat for that because, again, here I am saying that it was really my way of being in a bunch of little bands. And it was like I got to be in 16 different bands. And in almost every case, but not every case, I was serving as the band leader. And again, not every case. There are times where I don't have the top billing. And unfortunately, Spotify doesn't have a mechanism for that. So on Spotify, it doesn't present the album how I intended it to be presented to the audience, in that it just says like Dane Curley, Dane Curley, Dane Curley, Dane Curley, and it like goes down the line that Dane Curley is the artist. But if you get the vinyl, the here, the songs are more clear. So like, I know you can't see this, but I'll just, for the sake of it, Robbie Lindstrom and Dane Curley featuring Ted Tredgeling. I didn't give myself the first billing on that one. Now this one, track 2, Triptych Pulse, featuring Dane Curley. So I'm not even the main artist on that song.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So and as you go through, the album, you'll see that I'm building different capacities on different songs. And there's one song that I'm not even on, which is the final song, Moon and Clouds. That's Happy Tree and Encounters. And I did a lot of work on that song, like a ton. But my self-imposed deadline was coming up. And so I just said, listen, I'm going to bring someone else on here. And I know that they're capable. I'm a fan of theirs. This was the Artist Encounters. I said, I'm going to send them a demo of what I was working on and how I wanted it to sound. And they can have at it. And they did. And it was exactly what my expectations were. And it was beautiful. And it was awesome. So
I freaking love that song, by the way. It's probably my third favorite after the 2 rap songs, Moon and Clouds.
It's my wife's favorite. It's my wife's #1 favorite. And it's so lovely. And there's a beautiful story to that song. And I know that your audience really wants to hear, get back to Simon Posford, idiots. But I
was aware of the thread. I was wondering if we had actually fully derailed. But okay, it's good to know that we're holding on.
It's here. It's still here.
Yeah.
I will not leave until we get it done. But that song, Happy Tree, was playing live piano in his home. I guess it has he was digitally feeding it into some kind of processing device. I don't remember what it was. I don't know if it was an amplifier or if it was an echo, or if it was a pedal or what exactly. But he was not professionally set up at home. And he was using his home piano. And we were encountering this. First of all, that song is very long. I want to say 8 minutes, 9 minutes. It was even longer before I faded it out. And he was doing it all in one take with no editing.
Well, okay. For reference, the song is 7:54.
Thank you.
Are you seriously telling me you did that all in one take?
All in one take. All in one take.
Shit. Wow.
And I was being a brutal producer of this man. And I said, do it again. Do it again. Do it again. And I said, do it again more times than he was happy with. And there were a few times that he flipped out on me. And that, I'm a slave driver, and, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Accept this take, accept this take. And I would go point out little flaws in the take, little flaws, little things where something went wrong. And I was like, listen, if I fix that digitally, I'll know, you'll know, some other people will know. I want a perfect take. and I also want you to change this part a little bit and go this way with it. I want you to change, being kind of like a director of a movie.
Yeah.
But I was directing this person. And the positive story here is that we were able to fix all of his not all of them, but we fixed many of his technical glitches. And then I had to spend like at least 8 hours mixing that piano.
Right. Just to get
because it was recorded in a fucking living room.
Yeah. I know the horror of trying to mix a badly recorded piano for some of my.
It was very
stuff.
difficult, and again, nobody's fault. That's just we're not millionaires, you know. I couldn't send him and his piano and his gear to a good studio to get it done. I couldn't do that, and nor would they have the same pedals. And I'm sure his pedals have certain quirks and issues. And anyway.
If there are any younger musicians listening right now, just remember that good mixing never replaces good recording.
Yeah, that's for
polish a turd, lipstick on a pig, that whole thing.
They never proved that alchemy was real, did they?
No. Just invest in microphones, kids. Anyway, sorry. Continue.
So after that, it went on to Encounters, and then he used another person to mix the final product. But anyway. Great story. After that, Pat is a good friend of mine, a happy tree. He's since told me how grateful he is for what I did, and he's since like apologized so many times about how he flipped out on me, and I was like, no. You were having a natural response. That's how you should have responded. It was very hard work, and it was very annoying, but we got what is many people's favorite song of the album done through that method. But
my question is, through your slave mastering process, did you whip out the cucumbers on him? Did you go full cucumber?
You're such a nut. And you have the world's largest cucumbers. Like, you win a prize for those cucumbers. Yeah.
I don't know how good, baby.
No, only you threaten me with getting whacked with a cucumber if I don't finish.
I'm entirely out on the joke.
Yeah, as well you should remain if you would like.
All right. Well, I will continue with the next thought that came to me then.
Okay.
Just leave that one for the vultures.
He was being slow. I needed to bring in some kind of enforcement mechanism.
There we go. Yes. All right. Podcasting good. So I have a song on my first album, The Yellow, that's called The Deepest of Scars. If anybody wants to go check it out. Therefore, I did substantial parts of that song, the intro and the outro, just me on the piano and singing at the same time. We rented out this big hall at my music school, in Akureyri, my hometown back in Iceland. And it was just single take. There's a little section in the middle where we needed to have it on a click track and actually, record drums and then layer it all on top of there, the bass and the guitar, etc., etc. But there's a substantially long piano and vocals just intro, which is just rubato. I needed to be off the click track for that bit so that it would flow more nicely. And then go on to the click track for the mid section, and then go off the click track again for the end.
Yikes.
So it was a total. I don't want to say nightmare because it was actually kind of fun, but man, it took a lot of laboring out of love to get that done.
And rehearsal, right?
Yes, for me. And if anybody, it was I don't know, piano is my main instrument. So there's that, and the piano part and the vocal part were both very challenging to nail. And each section is about 2 minutes at the beginning and at the end. And it had to be done in one take. Because, like you said, if you try to cut it together after the fact, then people can tell, especially if you're dealing with a natural reverb in a huge ass hall, everybody's going to know that there's a cut there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Once reverb is in there, an echo, it's you're screwed.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I would get into all these takes, and I think it took 10 or 11 or something for each part. And it's once you've had a wonderful take up to a minute 50 seconds, there's 10 seconds left, and the thought comes into your mind oh, I better not fuck this up, And then
no, you're already not thinking about the song.
Yeah. That's the moment you do. So I just wanted to go on that little tangent. It could be such a struggle playing in the studio. Everything goes wrong.
But this is also sometimes what makes a lot of those songs special because it's like it's the struggle and like really trying to get it right, and you know all the blood, sweat, and tears that go into the song that make it what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly,
Absolutely.
and that song in hindsight, I'm so happy with how it came out. Like, and it's because we put all that work into it. So everybody go check out Smooth Talking. No, sorry, I was going to say The Deepest of Scars. It's called The
Yes.
Deepest of Scars. Smooth Talking Fiber is a different one, but it's a lot of fun.
Looking forward to hearing that one. Yeah.
Yeah, check
I
it
don't
out.
think I've heard that one yet.
Um,
But yeah, there was a lot of labor, and a lot of intense labor can yield, really great results. There was also songs that were effortless, where I had like it all came to me pretty much, and I just needed, a bass guitar added to it. Like it varies what you end up with. And then in some cases, I was like, yeah, all this needs is a bass guitar, but I want to bring more people on, and let's make it something else. Who cares? Don't be too attached, to the draft of a song. And it's not a song yet. And I think that that's what a lot of other, when I was younger, I got attached to the draft of a song. And like I would have, let's say, a first verse written, and I just loved that verse. And then the next verse that came didn't really match it. Thematically, it wasn't there. It didn't make any sense. I thought, well, I'm not changing the first verse. God damn it. I love that first verse. And so then the song would never get finished. It was just an unfinished song. And I think it's probably better to be more flexible.
It's funny because attachment is such a funny thing with music. Because the less attached to you are, the better it's gonna go. Like I've had so many
100%.
like situations where I've worked on a part for a song for maybe 4 or 5 hours, and I put a lot of work into it, only then to realize actually it would be like more in service to the song itself to delete this whole part and go in a different direction, and then it's effortless. Yep. And
it's hard to delete
because
this whole part.
The song has kind of a will of its own, and it's often a matter of surrendering your own agenda for what you think should happen for what's actually right for the song.
Yeah,
totally. I like that. What's right for the song? Every song. And then when you're making an album, you also have to think what's right for the album. Where is this song going to live on the album? What track is it? How does it interplay with the other songs that are precede and follow it? Is there a thread that connects this to any other songs? That was really one of the hardest parts of making the Cosmic Collaboration Machine, is because you have so many different voices that there really did need to be a band leader saying, no, we are doing this. Here's what I need. Here's what I need for this song. And then, or here's what the song needs.
Yeah.
This song needs this because the album needs that. And so there was a lot of that going on. And there were some artists who were more difficult to work with than others. And there were other artists who were just like, here's whatever exactly you wanted, and I get it, because Simon Posford, who is the front person of Spangle, along with, Roger Ram, he's a legend. He's also hallucinogen. He's also one half of younger brother, opposite of Benji. Prometheus. What?
Benji Vaughan, I think, is some.
Yeah, Vaughan. Yeah, Benji Vaughan. Prometheus is his artist name. So Simon has been around the scene since like the early days of the Goa Psytrance movement in actual Goa. I've never been to fucking Goa, Goa, India. So like he's a legend, and people see him as the maestro of maestros in this community, and he has some of the biggest audience turnout for live shows of anyone in this small subgenre in America, and out in Europe. I'm sure it's equally massive. He headlines Ozora. Anyway, he's massive in this subgenre of ours.
My favorite musician, hands down, like Spangle. Like it's the top of the Christmas tree for me personally.
Slowly.
Yeah, I remember.
Slowly coming around.
Hewkii released his list of all his favorite albums, and I was like, this is the most boring list ever. It was like number 1, Spangle, number 3, Spangle, number 5, Spangle, number 9, Spangle, number 6, Hallucinogen, number 7, Hallucinogen.
It was not Hallucinogen,
What is this list? What is this list?
It was actually quite diverse. I have a lot of metal and prog and stuff.
Okay.
I know.
Guys, can we get time out? All right, time out.
Let's keep arguing about Spangle. top album lists.
I'm also I'm also notorious when it comes to listening to the same band.
So
much.
I'm not.
Like,
I mean, I hope my album expresses that I am all over the road. You know,
it does.
and it was hard to make an album that was all over the road that wouldn't be thought of entirely as being all over the road, and it was a challenge. And in order to accomplish that, I had to have as much influence on every song as possible. And you know, yet many of these songs are not primarily my sonic DNA, but they are the recombination of my DNA with these other artists. And what does that produce when they recombine? And it was a beautiful experiment, and it was a beautiful outcome in my opinion. I really love that album. I'm so proud of it. I'm so happy with it. But it was only really afforded to me because of this Spangle community on Facebook, literally a Facebook group. And thankfully, the moderators allowed me to recruit musicians through their group. And then at a certain point, I got a lot of responses of people sending me demos of their work. Hey, I want to be part of this project. Hey, I want to be part of this project. And I was like, WeTransfer me. Send me a WeTransfer. You know, I'll get to it. Lots of response, more than could possibly be on the album. And some people were very early in their journeys, and I had to politely say, hey, I think you're a little earlier on in your music journey, you know. And other people who were early got lucky and were able to be included, you know.
I think that's such a great way to put it, man. Like, because people can take it really badly, you know. You're like,
some people think it's about talent, or it's about ability or capability. It's about how much time you've put in and how much time you as an individual need to put in in order to get to the place where you would like to be, I guess.
Yeah. I commend you for finding such a great way to say it, you know, because it would be so easy to have that conversation go south, you know.
The proudest thing about this album is that I think there were over 40 people involved in one capacity or another, and I think I only have bad blood with one. So 1 out of 40 people are unhappy with what occurred in the production of this
it's
piece
insane.
Of art.
That's totally insane.
Right? Like that's a good ratio, I think.
I'd say, yeah. I mean, if it's just random, or I mean, it's not random, but it's, you know, you just sent out the invitation, and whoever comes, and it's like,
that's right. So it's 40 strangers. I mean, not everybody on there actually. Farsad Anis I'd worked with before. Hewkii, the producer, I had worked with him before for his album, and Easily Embarrassed. Obviously, we had already worked together because it's a remaster of that. So I just had to get their permission to remaster it. But most people were brand new to me, and I was brand new to them. And only one person left with some heartache and quit the project essentially, which sucks. I'm not proud of it. I'm not happy about it, and I wish he would have stayed. And I asked him to stay, and I tried to work things out, but it didn't work. And that's life. And people are different, and we have different.
Without going into
ratio, man, 40.
That's still incredible. But I wanted to go into more depth on. Okay, I want to first comment on the huge cucumber that Hewkii is eating right now. It's immensely distracting.
The cucumber. Well, it's I've made it halfway through, and it started to get difficult, but I'm committed to the bit. So you know,
so big. You get it done. I guess it's mostly water.
10 calories.
Doesn't feel like it. It does make you full.
But to that one person, not that, you know, obviously you don't need to say who it is. We can keep that person anonymous. But would you be willing to talk a little more about it, like what it was that went wrong? Because I think this could be a pretty interesting subject to explore. And what you could have done differently, if anything.
Totally. Well, the first
Hewkii
thing that
takes another bite and looks on. Any Icelanders listening right now, what I would describe Helge's face right now is skítaglott.
Shit grin. I think it exists in English too.
Yeah, it's a shit grin. That's what he's got. Okay.
we call it a shit eating grin.
Yeah,
shit eating grin.
That's the one. That's exactly it.
So yeah, I'd be happy to talk about that. First of all, I think one of the threads of my life is becoming more patient and trying to develop the skill of patience. And I'll be working on it till I die. I am not famous for patience. I'm not famous for being calm, cool, and collected 100% of the time. That's not my personality type at all. So when someone is criticizing me in harsh ways at a phase of a project that is very early, that is in the draft phase, that's hard for me to deal with in a respectful, kind way. I try to explain to everyone who works with me that the draft phase is a phase for experimentation. It is a place and time when it is acceptable to do things wrong. It is a time when it is acceptable to have sounds that are not polished. It is time when the sounds can be half-baked, the ideas can be half-baked, everything can be subject to change. And when you're dealing with psytrance or psychedelic electronica or any complex genre where the sounds themselves are complex and difficult to fine-tune and difficult to make, right?
And that's kind of the point of the genre too. Like,
it's literally one of the key components of the genre.
Tickling your brain kind of sounds.
In order to get to those sounds, I like personally to sketch out ideas first. In other words, these are sketches of what a sound might yet become. So I just want to get notes. I just want to get melodies. I just want to get maybe even throw a couple presets on something, like using a plug-in synthesizer preset that I have every intent to change. Mm-hmm. Well, this artist in question was like mortified by that strategy. They were so, in my opinion, fearful that the product that would be released, the final product, would be similar to the draft product. That they were fearing that I would destroy their credibility as an artist, that I would harm them somehow, because they were so unhappy with the sound quality and the character of the noises. And every time I said, no, this is not the song. This is the draft of the song. It's not mixed at all. And I mixed, virtually the entire album is mixed by me. I had a couple songs have great assistance, but virtually the entire album is mixed by me. Which I'm very proud of. I worked really hard because of all the different genres and stuff. It was really challenging. Yeah. I could not mix professionally. I could only mix what I did professionally because I can't. I mean, these guys, to get paid what they get paid to mix, they have to be able to mix the song in like an hour or 2 hours to make any profit, you know. And I was spending like 8 hours a track, you know. So
just 8 hours though. That's.
I mean. Some songs, I'm sure. Well, the song with Simon Posford was like days and days because I was so nervous to present it to him. Right. I was so nervous to be like, "Here's the song. This is all mixed," you know. So that one I was really second guessing and perfectionizing and all that bullshit. But
But basically, the problem was that the collaborator in that case was kind of like somebody who just had a chiseler make themselves a statue and comes outside and finds like a stone block and they're just like, what the fuck?
That's a great I love that analogy for it, and I've been trying to process the experience with this person for so long, and that's a great way to put it because I'm a little hurt by it. You know, I wanted 100% success with everyone I worked with. I wanted everyone to be satisfied and happy, and the fact that just one person was like quit and like remove my name from the work and all this stuff. And then when I was talking about my patience, when the song, I kept sending him like, hey, here's a newer mix. You sure you don't want to be a part of it? Here's a newer mix. Sure you don't want your name on that? Kept saying no. Okay, we're done. It's no, you're off of it. Great, your name is removed. Can I keep this piece of the instrumentation that I wrote, you know, the melody of, but you created this sound? Can I keep it? I'm going to change it, but can I keep it as a foundation? Yes, you may. He wrote me a whole like letter that like gave me all the permissions that he was willing to give me and said, but take my name off of everything. I don't want to be there. Okay, great. We had an agreement. Then he hears the final song.
Oh.
And he comes back furious that he's not a part of it, but not in a good way. Not in a way like, wow, I should have stayed. In a way like, fuck you, Dane. You suck.
No
like,
way.
He accused me of secretly hiring someone else to mix the song, that it wasn't my mix, that another producer got involved and fixed everything themselves, and I had nothing to do with it. He threatened to tell other artists of high profile, because he was well connected, that I was a terrible person and that I'm a fraud and all this. It was a really big, horrible drama. And I only talked about it with the other artists on the song so that they were aware of the situation, and that and the other artists were like, I have all the stems. I know what you made and what they made and how almost none of it on the song is theirs anymore. And I know that you mixed it because it was my music and sounds that you mixed. And it was just like a whole fucking annoyance that shouldn't have had to happen. It was a little heartbreaking for me, but that's the one bad experience of making the album. So
yeah, it's like what comes up for me as you're sharing that is just that music making is such a vulnerable process,
For sure, and people get very emotionally invested, and I can imagine like that this person actually kind of felt like they should have stayed on, and those kinds of feelings can transform into other kinds of feelings.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that too, which is why I'm a little disappointed in my lack of patience, because as they were accosting me in this way, it was very hurtful to me. It was very, you call somebody a fraud who's a musician, that's like the cardinal offense, right?
Yeah.
That's like, you can't call a musician a fraud. That's insane.
10,000 red flags at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. It's like calling a writer saying they plagiarized their story. You know what I mean? And I didn't stand for it. So I may have said, go fuck yourself. I may have then said, fuck you. I don't give a fuck who you tell about this shit. Fuck you. Go fuck yourself. And then block them. Maybe I said, grow up. You're a bitch. Fuck you. Whatever I said. I don't know. But it was not nice and it wasn't graceful. And so for that, I apologize. But I'm a human being. And
sure.
It's hard to deal with that kind of baseless criticism. So, but I would have loved to have a result where it was like, hey, listen, keep talking to me. Here's why you're wrong. But some people, they don't want to hear why they're wrong.
Yeah.
And their emotions are running as well. So that was the one negative experience. And I don't know if anybody gets anything out of it, but now you've heard it.
It's always useful to get insight into, because these kinds of interactions can be a part of the music business, and it's good to know how to navigate it. And it's always a challenge in being able to let go, because it's so tempting to go into people's drama. But it goes back to the story of I don't know, I've heard it in the context of the Buddha, something like, if somebody offers you a gift and you refuse, to whom does the gift belong?
Yeah.
The person who gave it. And this is the same with drama. It's like you always have a choice. Do you want to go into that thing, or do you want to leave it at the door and let that person just own their own feelings and deal with that? But it's so hard. It's one of the most tempting things in the world when people bring drama to your doorstep and they're not nice about it.
I mean, it depends on your pattern though, man, because there are some people who'd be like, fuck yes. Give me that drama,
Oh yeah, right.
There we go.
Totally.
I have somebody to scream at.
Yeah, it's cathartic to scream. I mean, I'm speaking for myself, but a good scream every now and then is, a good time. But in this case, I think part of it was the threat, the reputational threat, was this threat that like, hey, I'm connected with other artists and I'm going to tell them what a fucking loser you are. Like that was like,
immediately.
I'm not going to deal with that. Like I can't respond to that with kindness.
Immediately really stood out to me. I remember I got a similar threat once. It wasn't about music. It was about social media. It was from a person who sent me, this is totally baseless claim, just like spammy. But because of what they said, it kind of shook me. It was like, I have friends, like my dad works at Nintendo, basically. He said, like, I have friends in, high places in Meta and stuff, and I'm going to get your account deleted. And at the time, I was working super hard, posting every day, growing my account really fast, and it was something that meant a lot to me, that I saw the follower count ticking up higher and higher. And this guy was going to take it all away from me, apparently. So I was like, spent a good few hours there at least, just in that kind of shock, like, fuck, do I need to do something about this? Do I need to, am I gonna? So,
Right. Right. And what's the right way? And if it's his word against yours, and he's going to take out your, and his dad really has power. Who the fuck knows?
Exactly.
Yeah. But often it's empty. Like, I think often people will use this kind of language to try to get some kind of leverage.
And anybody who uses this kind of language is totally full of shit as well. Like, it's like,
let's bring our interpersonal problem onto the whole global scene, so everybody can watch. Just solve it between us, please.
Yeah, I'm not trying to reignite any fires with anybody. I wish this person so much peace and so much health and wealth and
of course.
happiness.
So do I. I didn't mean to imply that that emotion would have been coming from you, what I just said.
Yeah.
I mean, if you give me permission, I will head over to them and smack them with a cucumber.
You don't think we got you?
The world's most effective weapon.
Yes, yeah. It does kind of look like a baton.
I've almost finished one. This has been a commitment.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
So, Simon, I got you guys.
The tension and the anticipation for this topic is like through the roof. We've been building up to it for like an hour and a half or more.
Existential edging.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
So, Simon obviously saw my post. It's his group. And I wanted more people to be involved. And I wanted to more people to kind of crawl out of the woodwork and hear that I was making a project. And because why do a project with me? Who the hell am I? So I wanted to give them a reason, no matter who they were. And the reason I gave them was, hey, if I get enough artists and I can really make this album, I'm going to produce a vinyl record. You're going to be able to hold this thing in your hand and be proud of it. And so all of these people who've never been on, even in some cases, their own album, they would all have this opportunity to be on wax and be physical. And so when I did that, I got a lot more attention from artists who were willing to collaborate. And Simon, in a gesture of generosity toward his own community, the Spangle group, and the artists within that community, he said, Dane, I love what you're doing. I'm really impressed by your tenacity that you're really working on this project. I can see it in how you're talking about it in all of your posts and what you're doing and how you're rallying the troops, and people are saying good things about you behind the scenes. And, I'm gonna do one of the collabs on this album. I'm gonna be on this album. And it was like, that's fucking awesome.
This is giving small council vibes, like you have my bow.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. He got recognized by the leader.
So, the leader. So he joins, and I offer him, I think, 2 or 3 drafts that were just like, melodies that I had concocted, and the sounds were finished, but they were just melodies. They didn't have much on it.
But wasn't it this kind of thin sound that you sent to him?
Yes, that was one of the 2 or 3 things that I sent. Yeah,
nice.
Wah, 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 wah. Yeah,
that's
that was one of them. And even before I sent them to him, the moderator of the group, who I didn't really know him well at all, Charlie Kinnenmonth. And I sent it to Charlie. I said, Charlie, what should I send it? Because I was so nervous to send him anything.
Oh, I did think it was LSD 55. Sorry to interrupt. Sorry.
LSD 55. Yeah, that's the.
Figured out what song it was. Sorry.
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one with there's a scientist who is speaking to a subject of an experiment who is a woman who's going to take LSD. Yeah.
I really like that one.
Was it in 55?
It was in round about 1955. It's not dated, 55. But that is why I titled it 55. Because obviously LSD 25 is the drug, and so I knew that this quality of this experiment and the sound of their voices had this very 1950s quality, and so that's how and why I titled it LSD
funny
55.
because I've actually sampled also LSD experimentation in another track. It's on a side project called Pixel Dream, the title track of the album Scoop. That has also like LSD research experiment, voice samples. So it's interesting that we both have had the same idea.
It's, I'm always interested in sampling vocals that are not mine. I love spoken word, and I love making the spoken word musical. And even when it's not inherently musical, I love quantizing it and fitting it onto, time. And, that was my opportunity for that song, was to, that song, again, I gave Simon a choice. I gave him a couple stems, and one of them would have had more collaborators on it, but that one I had already had big plans for and known its direction. I just needed Simon's synthesizer, live synth. And so he had told me originally that he was just going to do the SH-101 synthesizer, and that he was going to do that was it. He's going to add that for the whole entirety of the track, but he's just going to give me one track of the SH-101 synthesizer. And then instead, he records bass guitar for the whole track. He records drums, live drums he plays on the whole track. And he does not one, but 2 entire tracks with different tonalities of the SH-101 synthesizer. So he gave me 4 tracks, 4 of the most important tracks: bass guitar, drums, and 2 synth tracks. And so he's built all that on top of my wah, 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 and
sounds like the Wii Shop theme a little bit.
and then, once he gave all that to me, it was like, okay, ball's in my court. And I had already had this vision of this psychedelic experiment being a huge part of the song, and actually using that vocal sample as if it were an instrument. And having, LSD, being part of the tune, LSD, LSD. I wanted that kind of musicality to the spoken word on there, and that was a huge my DNA on that song. Apart from Simon's, because the SH-101 on that is all Simon all day. Very much. If you listen to
with all the modulating,
and then I did a lot of editing of it. I put it through a lot of different resonators and stuff to give the song more dynamism, because as dynamic as it is, it's one tone through the whole song. So I had to add new tones, and so I did a lot of manipulation, and it was all unmixed. He gave me all unmixed files, so I had to mix the drums, mix everything.
What did he give you in the drum track? Did he give you did he record?
Kit.
Okay,
yeah, he recorded the live drum kit
with all the proper microphones, separate mics and all the toms.
Yeah, but it was, I believe, I don't remember how many tracks it was broken down to when I was given it to mix. It might have already been loosely coagulated into a single track or 2 tracks. It wasn't. It wasn't like a full here's the hi-hat, here's the bass drum, here's the room mic, here's the snare. It wasn't like that.
I wanted to get into the nitty-gritty of that, because I'm getting interested in talking about the nitty-gritty of sound design as well with you guys, because that's something I've never explored myself. And there's so many sounds on this album that get me interested.
This is actually something I wanted to touch on a bit, because it's interesting. Like I thought about this, sharing this album with you, Timmy Flammeus, because you come from a very different musical background.
Very.
A lot of the emphasis is on, the harmonic content, the modal changes, the chord progressions, the melody. Like, it's very centered.
It's very centered around composition. Is the way I would describe it.
And with electronic music, you can often even get a song that just is centered basically around one note, but the variety and the novelty comes from textures and different sounds. So I was just kind of curious about somebody coming from, kind of songwriting type background, entering into this kind of music that's where the focus is very different. And actually it brought to memory, for example, didgeridoo music. Aboriginal didgeridoo music, it just produces basically one note, but it has a lot of harmonic variety in it, depending on how you engage with the didgeridoo. And I saw that parallel with a lot of electronic music as well. And there's an entrancing element to both repetition and like having the same note. It can often kind of bring you into a hypnotic kind of a state. So I was just kind of curious about that contrast then.
I'd jump on that and say it's always been apparent to me that there are different parameters that you can play around with to make music more or less interesting. I view music through the lens of complexity versus accessibility most of the time. And my goal in my compositions is always to find the balance between those two. Some that doesn't have too much repetition, it stays interesting. There's something new that comes every now and again, at least.
I sent you The Dance of Eternity by Dream Theater.
Wait.
Which has 107 time signature changes.
Oh yeah, right. Exactly. You could check that out for an example of something that's too complex to be accessible, to be relatable for the average listener. But it's also the reason nobody listens to modern jazz, I don't. I have a bachelor's degree in jazz. I don't listen to modern jazz. I do not enjoy. I don't enjoy Coltrane particularly either, with giant steps. It's that, for anybody who's not familiar, it's that crazy chord progression that modulates every bar for most of the 16 bars. It's the final
boss of jazz music, much like The Dance of Eternity is the final boss in metal music.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't relate to music that just goes full brainiac, that just goes full complexity. I relate to music, and neither do I relate with music that goes full accessibility. We're just here to have a fun time with the Care Bears, because that gets boring. It's just the same thing again and again. So it's complexity versus accessibility, or you could think of it as repetition versus novelty.
I think the interesting thing about a lot of like electronic music is how can repetition be made more interesting? I think that's the challenge. It's like where we want to be repetitive because of the concept of a trance requires repetition. And in order to get to that trance in a way that's really engrossing and all-encompassing of your psyche, it needs to be interesting still, nevertheless.
Yeah.
And so in order to do that, you need sound design.
Yeah.
And that's what the didgeridoo is all about. It's like one of the most interesting sound designs that they've come up with.
So basically, you've got a very easy, accessible kind of theoretically, with regards to the music theory, it's simple and repetitive, but in the sense of sound design, it's not. It's very, very much inaccessible.
I definitely relate to what you're saying.
Not inaccessible, but challenging to create. Yeah.
I relate to what you're saying about like the repetition and the novelty. I don't know if both of you guys have heard the last song of this album.
Yes.
The Black Hole of
I've heard that
Eternal Bliss.
album. Yeah.
It's so basically the theme of that song is throughout most of the song. There's this one pattern, this rhythmic pattern that it moves through the whole song pretty much, but everything else is changing all the time. Right. So that was actually my way of like touching on what you were speaking about with like getting the repetition for the trance, but then, playing with the variety as well.
I need to listen back to this one.
That album of yours is very accessible. It's very, there's a lot of like house, there's a lot of techno, and it's very, even though you're going into these psychedelic themes, it's very accessible from a genre perspective, in my opinion.
Right. It's because also like I with a lot of trance, especially psychedelic trance, it's like, for me, sometimes it lacks melody. And it's the same thing as like, I also come from rock music and mostly prog music. And I can definitely vibe with, the single tonality, but I actually resonate even more with old school trance that has all these kind of gay sounding melodies that are almost too cheesy for people. But I feel like some of that fluffiness is sometimes missing, or some of that playful, childish kind of
Oh, I see. I love that stuff. I'm a huge old school Tiesto fan. I mean, that was my
Right.
gateway into electronic music. For me, there was no electronic music but for Tiesto and Moby.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you weren't Tiesto or Moby, I didn't know who the hell you were in electronic music. And
Right.
in fact, I probably thought you were Tiesto because a lot of his albums were just mixes of other people's music. I was like, yeah, that's Tiesto, but it wasn't, you know? So I think that sort of, rise and fall with the same thumpity thump going on, it really, it captured me as a kid, and that means it can capture anybody as a kid. And if it can capture you as a kid, it can capture you at any time. And I think a lot of pop garbage music relies on those formulas for success, and then adds all this like unnecessary, trashy, disrespectful lyrics to it that are like soul shrinking. And I think that that's where pop music's going wrong for me personally, because I like pop music. I think there have been pop artists that have blown my mind. I'm a huge Peter Gabriel fan.
Oh boy, don't get me
I
started.
mean, yeah, I mean, just mass. I think his albums are, at the pinnacle of pop. I
Yeah.
love Bjork. I really do. And I like her when she's not at her most experimental. I like her when she's just singing a pop song, but the
Yeah.
lyrics are interesting and her emotions are so well done. And there's clever sounds on her early records. And
Yeah, same. Honestly, I really like her early stuff, but on some of her albums, it's just too freaky, too artsy, too
it's
experimental
very
for me.
experimental.
It's
Yeah.
too little accessibility for my taste. That'd be another
Totally.
example.
But even on those albums, there will be a song that blows your mind because of her voice just being her voice.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. And I mean, I'm not generally speaking to the quality of the music either, except from just this very narrow POV of this lens that I use to decide for myself whether or not I like music. It's like it needs to hit that balance, and that balance is subjective as well, obviously.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
So,
And yeah, people
The other
definitely
thing,
have
though-
different parameters for what's too complex or not.
oh yeah, and it depends on where you're at in your journey as well. I noticed through studying jazz that I mean I didn't really listen to jazz before going to jazz uni, and then I had to learn how to play jazz all of a sudden, and it was like okay, I was kind of forced into it a little bit because I was like I want to study music, or I need to go to university because that's what my programming says I need to do at this point. And I need to get a degree, and I can't really picture doing anything other than music, and definitely don't want to go with classical, so I guess jazz it is.
Right. There's limited options in
Yeah.
collegiate music. Yeah.
So that's how I ended up on that journey. And I grew up with the Beatles. My dad really got me into the Beatles, and they're still my favorite band to this day.
Really?
And they don't use very simple harmonic vocabulary either. They're theoretically quite advanced because they were very influenced by the American popular song, the kind of Broadway musical songs that were being written and would later become part of the jazz standard canon, kind of the songs that jazz musicians play at jazz sessions, at jam sessions, where everybody can just call a tune and everybody knows what the tune is. So it's like a collection of songs that everybody knows to reference.
Sgt. Pepper's is like a prog rock album. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah,
It totally is. But they're such masters at taking, like, this reminds me of a quote. I think it's been attributed to Albert Einstein. I don't think, like, a lot of stuff, but I don't think he said it. But it went something like, something along the lines of, if I can't explain my theories to my grandma or to a kid.
Yes, if you can't explain it as if you're explaining it to a 5-year-old, you don't know what you're talking about.
And I feel like this is what the Beatles really understood, that they were doing a lot of rather interesting, harmonically complex stuff, but they were able to masterfully present it in a way that most people don't interpret.
They hit the balance. They hit the balance.
Totally.
They hit the
and this
balance.
is what I try to do as well, but I'm also a sucker. Like, I love highly complex stuff sometimes. But I grew up listening to Dream Theater. That was my favorite band as a kid, and they do all sorts of craziness.
Oh, yeah. To me, they're like unlistenable.
Yeah, right.
And I love Prague, but then they're so complicated.
For me, Tool, like, they hit the sweet spot when it comes to Prague. Like, they have the complexity, but they also they manage to do it in a way that resonates with people. And also, like, with a lot of brainy stuff, like, there's a reason why nerds stereotypically are thought of as being disconnected from their sexuality, because when you're too much in your head, you're not in your body. And I feel like, for example,
Right.
Tool really they strike this balance of like they're very much in their sexual energy, they're raw, powerful, and like,
buy that.
it's sexy, but it's also intelligent at the same time.
Yeah, interesting, because that's I think
masculine sexual energy stampede.
Yeah, and I think that gets back to sound design, though. I think that gets back to the tonality of their guitars and their instruments and what synths are being used at the drum kit. I think their tonality is very warm. There's a lot of warmth in their songs. They're very bass driven. They're very low frequency driven. And, you know, earlier albums had a little bit more tinniness to them. And as their albums gone on, by the time you get to Fear Inoculum, there's like no tinniness at all on that album. It's like extremely bass forward.
I've never thought of music in these terms that you're using right now. It's really
that's so interesting. That's like the number one way I think about music.
There's so many dimensions to get at it.
What I think about when I hear a song is the chord progression and the melody. Like I immediately know what the chord progression is. And what
I'm not good enough at music theory to think about music like that.
And I'm not good at sound enough. I'm not good enough at sound design to do it in the way
I have to think of it the way. At my core, who I am as a person, a big chunk of it is computer nerd. A big chunk of my personality.
I've never been very young. a remote, remotely related with being a computer person myself.
You're like you're a folk singer guy who like gets the ladies with the acoustic guitar at the picnic.
I shan't deny. I will plead the fifth.
It's funny though that I'm kind of coming at this.
Hey ladies, check out my new track. It's right here. You know, like, it doesn't work.
I made it on my computer.
Yeah, that's right. Do you know how expensive my graphics card was? You know. Pull that out. Computer music has, and you know, that gets back to what we were talking about earlier about there's a little shame in being a computer musician, but not anymore. But there was that.
Yeah, because of this kind of, I'd say that's related to a bigger conversation around what's the proper term? European centrism or something. You know, putting kind of white European people on into the history books and not everybody else, basically.
Well, interestingly enough, I'm fairly certain, again, I'm not a historian of anything, but I'm fairly certain that house and techno were born out of black culture in Detroit, as so much popular music is born out of black culture because jazz was absolutely black culture when it was getting started.
And only now jazz is making its way into being like a more accepted academic thing. I mean, I studied jazz at university, like a lot of people do around the world. So it's kind of got into that.
Takes a while
now. Yeah, but that still kind of holds on to the old conservatism that says in order to be a real musician, you need to know music theory and scales and stuff.
I bumped into
this. You really don't.
I see your greater point now.
Yeah.
I see your greater point now. Yeah, it's
There's a lot of music cultures around the world that just don't give a fuck about scales and chords.
Right,
you know?
Right. And I mean, if you were in one of those tribes we were talking about earlier, they didn't have music theory class. You know, you just got to sit and listen to what does this sound like when I bang it? It sounded nice, so now my great-grandfather did it, and now everybody's going to do it for the rest of the time.
Yeah, and now we're getting to a discussion about what music theory is and isn't, because I'd say music, like a lot of people who say they don't know music theory very well actually do. They just don't know that they're actually using it when they are. For example, like if you've ever put together, like if you've ever made I don't know, if you've ever pressed a note on a keyboard, you're using music theory. You just don't know it. Like even if you don't know the term for the note that you're pressing,
the sense that it's just a theory, it's kind of just up in the ether there.
Yeah, you're still using it. You're still and perhaps a more potent example would be somebody who's a casual acoustic guitar player and just knows a couple chords. And I go, play me a D, and they go, this is D. Bam. That's music theory. Like, you wouldn't know what a D music theory is. Literally just we need to have names for things so that we can communicate them. You know,
right. But there are cultures that never name them, I guess.
Exactly, and you just learn through intuition. But even that is still music theory. You know, you just
I had a very
you don't know what the names
experience.
for the things are, but you're still using the things.
I had a very interesting experience related exactly to this that you're speaking about when I was in the north. a few months ago, and I was walking in this forest every day, and I was getting to know the forest more by the day just by walking through it. And I had this epiphany about music and music theory of like, okay, I can learn this forest, like learn all the different corners and the roads just by walking through it enough. Or I could get a map of the thing and I could learn it that way. But those are kind of different ways of getting at the same thing. And I realized that most of the music theory I've learned is simply just by playing the guitar, but paying very close attention to like what kind of relationship of notes gives rise to this emotion and this color. And a lot of people get turned off by the kind of academical language of music theory.
Yeah.
But it's exactly what you're saying. It is, you're always engaging in music theory when you are engaging in music. It's just a matter of like, are you aware of it or not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's another great analogy. This idea of, navigating a place and being able to have been given a map or not given a map. But if your personality is such that you want a map and you need a map, it's nice to have one, and you won't get lost. But I think you could get there if you have the map. I think you're more likely to be able to reproduce the map, be able to be like, hey, Flammeus, can you draw me the map? He can draw a better map than I can draw. I'd be like, I can't draw you the map. What, I just walk around this place.
Yeah, because the map isn't the actual thing. Yeah, we're tying together lots of circles here. Yeah,
but it's so funny because sometimes you wish you could let go of the map. Because yes, I have studied some music theory. Not to the same degree as Timmy, but like to some degree. And sometimes I wish I could just listen to a song and not know, oh, this is the 1 and this is the 6 and this is the 5, because that already puts like a conceptual barrier between me and the music, so that I'm not actually just completely feeling it.
Totally. But all of us who make music are gonna be cursed with this burden in one way or another.
But it's a skill also to be able to tune out of it.
Yeah, but producers like you guys, I had a conversation with a producer friend, Stefan Early, who I'm dying to get on the podcast actually.
Yes.
He was talking about how he just hears sounds as he just has an EQ program in his brain now that just knows.
Yeah.
It just discerns the kind of overtone frequencies of whatever note, of whatever sound. It doesn't need to be music. Even if it just hears a car tire screeching, it's like, oh, it's just whatever. It just changed his perception of the world because he's gained such insights into sound.
I had the identical experience. I remember being here on New Year's and like being bombarded with the fireworks and like, oh my god, it's too much mid-range. Yeah, I need an EQ. It's like being overloaded by mid-range.
And it's the exact equivalent to me listening to a song and being like, oh, it's the 1564 chord. Great. Oh, I've heard that one a million times before. Thanks.
That's the another fun aspect of making music is that you're making it to your own ear. And I don't like sibilance. I just don't like it. So I can hear higher frequencies than the average person. And in fact, my little brother, when he was younger, he could hear more than children are supposed to hear. I can probably hear what children hear still, which is weird. But my little brother could hear even beyond that in terms of the sibilance range going up to high frequencies. And I would be listening to something and he would be in pain. And he'd be like, please lower it, please lower it. And I'm like, it's not loud. Like, what do you mean, please lower it? But he was hearing a frequency that was causing him pain.
Yeah.
And anyway, I only bring that up to say that I mix things darker. Darker, for those of the audience that don't know, darker means lower range, means more bassy. And brighter means higher range and more tinny. Tinny is also a negative word. Some people think of the high range with more lovely terms than I do, but I look at it as tinny and sibilant and scratchy and hissy.
That's really interesting.
Yeah,
tell
whereas
from the vocabulary you use about it.
Yeah, whereas the lower frequency to me is warmer. It's more comfortable. It's more, textural.
I was going to say before, when we were talking about Tool and you were like, yeah, their music's pretty warm. I was like, I don't think that's the word I would have gone for.
That's what I mean. I mean, it's warm in terms of bass tones.
Okay, because I mean, I haven't heard a lot of their music, but I assume they have a lot of very dissonant and uncomfortable intervals going on.
Sometimes, but I
Okay.
think that the bulk of their music is not that. It's not very like it's not very dissonant. It's more rich,
It's
rich
actually
textural.
it is dissonant rhythmically, and this is the thing. This is why
Yeah,
Tool is
yeah,
such a
that's true.
unique
That's true.
band because there's often not too many crazy like harmonic things happening. It's more so like it's more bass driven, drum driven. It's more rhythmically based than most other music, and the guitar is actually playing more the role that a drummer would be playing in another band, which is providing a simple template for the drums and the bass to do all the crazy shit.
Right, right. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So that's
Very
why they're very
interesting.
unique.
Very unique. Yeah. And I love prog, and I would make prog music more if I had more music theory knowledge. So there are doors that can be opened with music theory. As a person
Yeah.
who didn't study it, I think if I do study, and I've been considering studying it, and going down that route because I'm a huge Rush fan.
I love Rush as well.
I mean, love it. When I think of a dissonant melody, I think of YYZ,
Right.
and
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
dun,
In
dun,
Iceland, we
dun,
call
dun.
it the tónskrati, which means
Yeah.
the tone devil.
Oh, really? Who called it that?
I don't know. It's just a common
But
like
yeah, I mean,
terminology.
it's the old Diabolos and Musica, you know, it's the devil in
It-
music as
It was banned, actually.
Invented
Funny
force.
enough, I think by the Catholic Church.
I think
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's a myth at this point.
Okay,
Could be, though.
okay.
Could be.
Well, the thing is, you never heard it though in specific music from a certain time that was related to a certain kind of
Yeah.
religiosity.
And I love Gregorian chant. I think one of the most creative songs in electronica ever is by Enigma. Who I believe is from France, but they had two super hits in America, Enigma. And, one of them is like, Nomine Patris Sancti Amen. Tum, 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 tum. Oh. And it's incredible. If you don't know this song, I mean, this was a mega hit in the 90s.
Wait, I'm gonna write it down. What's the
Give you
name?
the name. I can give you the name. Hang on.
It's a mega hit.
Is it
Enigma.
Return to Innocence? Oh, that's a different song of theirs. No. Principles of Lust.
Wait,
Principles of
this
Lust.
rings a bell. The name.
I don't want to give you a strike, so I'm not going to play it long.
We won't play it
Yeah.
on the podcast. Everybody go look
Yeah.
that up and come right back.
Yeah. Anyway, the whole album is good.
Yeah, dude, I want to say, not to shamelessly plug myself, but
Go for it.
I do, I do teach music theory. If you're ever interested in taking that.
Oh, this is a personal plug. Wow.
He's quite good actually. Like he's good at making it
I don't doubt
accessible.
I do not doubt that at all.
We're at-
Very personable
Consider
teacher, I'd say.
I
your
think-
services.
Yeah, I think just kind of not to sell my services necessarily, but to kind of give it
Sell them.
because I feel like this is relevant to the conversation that's going on. I think the way to make music theory more accessible to people is to make it like you were saying. You immediately started talking about some of the bands that make you want to learn music theory, right? Like the kind of music that you want to understand.
Yes.
And that's
yes.
what I think it needs to be centered around. So that's what I always do with my clients
Right.
and kind of going in and analyzing music that they would actually that is similar to the music that
Yeah, I
they
love
would
that.
want to make themselves, or they want to take some of the magic that's already in there. So we just kind of steal a little bit of harmonic vocabulary from some of my clients' favorites bands.
You should
And-
consider doing a little video shorts series on that too for the general audience, because that seems like something that could get quite popular.
Totally.
Quick
I
little
have, yeah.
music theory breakdowns.
I did. I used to post daily to the Grams, and some of those videos, I think I got up to like 50 episodes of some pretty highly produced videos, or highly produced. They were like, by my standards, highly produced. It took more than the average Instagram reel amount of work,
Yeah.
and eventually my life has gone in different directions right now. But I have
Hard
shared a
to
lot
feed
of
the
that stuff.
beast, to feed the social media beast.
Goodness me,
Very
yeah.
hungry.
It's very funny you say this as a teacher, because like I don't understand how many more teachers haven't clocked onto the fact that it doesn't really work to like force music on students that they don't care about.
I don't get it.
It's like, I had a really good music education from public school here in New Jersey. I had music teachers who cared. When I was in elementary school, there was a music teacher who would play the piano and sing to us, and we would sing along, and that was very fun and enjoyable. And then I had a music teacher later on, Mrs. Oslin, who she would play, records for us and it like give us really cool music culture. Like she would play like the first rap song, and she would play like the first recording of this genre, the first recording of that genre, and it was really fun and mind expanding. So I had a mind expanding music education, even though I was not taught theory. We were taught like how to play the flutophone. You know what I mean? Like that was our education in America. And what did we do on the flutophone? We did In the Jungle, the Mighty Jungle, The Lion Sleeps Tonight.
Oh, such a banger.
Yeah, on the flutophone, you got to hear it, man.
On the elementary school.
It was horrible. It was horrible, but yeah, I mean, so I didn't get the best education from a technical standpoint, but I got an enriching cultural education. It was very nice.
I mean, I think that could play into the fact that you're a musician today. Like, if you would have had like an education that would have just like beaten the joy of music out of you, which a lot of music education does, unfortunately, for children.
It does. And my favorite teachers were English teachers, and I'm a writer, so I'm a songwriter, I'm a lyricist, and I'm actually professionally, I'm a writer. That's what I do. I do copywriting and creative writing, and I used to be a journalist for sports and stuff. So, I mean, my favorite teachers were English teachers. Did I particularly love English class? No, but I liked their personalities as people, and and so things stick a little bit better, and you gravitate toward that. And whereas my math teachers, weren't my favorite, I found it stressful, and I hated that math was the first period of the day, and I hoped that, like, I was like, if math could be after lunch, I'm all for it, but at 8 a.m. and I'm still asleep essentially as a baby, and it ain't happening.
So this is the reason why I can't listen to Dream Theater. It invokes childhood trauma.
It's too fucking mathy. It's pure math. Yeah. But I like some certain things. I like gimmicky music at times, and I don't use that as a pejorative. I like the album Discipline by King Crimson is very mathematical. The song itself has like this interesting, like they start the pattern with this guitar, and then they start the same pattern with this guitar, and it like loops around and comes back, and I love that song. And I think it can be done right and it can be made musical, but at the other hand of it, I think, Dream Theater is guilty of making some very pretentious music. And that's okay, because there are listeners for pretentious music. And if I were a pretentious musician like that, I would make that music too. Fuck it. Again, it's not a pejorative. It's just like, if I could, I would, and they can, and they do, and I can't. So I make, different things. But I just wanted to answer your question, because I do feel like we've been here for 2.5 hours, and like I didn't even answer any of your questions. And you were so kind to prepare questions. But when it comes to sound design, some of the things I do are just from daily life, because I am so focused on what I refer to, rightly or wrongly, as the texture of sound. I personally have an experience of actually feeling on my eardrum as if my eardrum exists in a three-dimensional space. It obviously it does, but I can sense as if there's this drum, and that I can feel like pick, 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 pick on a surface of that drum, not just one wave hitting it, but I feel like there's a perception. I'm not saying this is real, but there's a perception of actual texture. And the best way to experience that is cracking open a can of soda and putting your ear to the can of soda. This is honestly, one of the great pleasures of living to me, is cracking open and listening to a can of soda, and marrying that to the sweetness of the soda and the bubbles in the mouth. And you can feel inside, you're feeling the bubbles. Now it's on the inside of your eardrum. And so getting these different experiences and hearing the blood rush through your ears, and all these kind of textural sounds that you get by having this body and these two ears and these two eardrums, and all the other components, the bones of the ear and all. This is a great pleasure for me, a great pleasure. I mean, I can't oversell it. I love it. It's one of my favorite things about being alive. And so when I create music, I try at times, and you can't do it all the time or just be noise, but I try at times to recreate that experience for other people who may be so unfamiliar with it that they don't even perceive the word as texture as relating to sound.
Yeah.
And so on the song LSD 55, if you go back and my song with Simon Posford, if you go back and listen to it, there is a key component of that song that is actually me crunching on crunchy potato chips. That it's literally...
That's
and
how
it's
it
the
ends.
potato yes, and I use that to finalize the song, but it's also throughout the whole song. But that's what that noise is.
No
it's
way.
I'm crunching a potato chip, but it has without me telling you that, you don't know that that's what the fuck is happening. It doesn't sound comical in any way. It's a rich textural noise that I weave throughout that song, and obviously I had to post-process it with a lot of computer engineering, but other than that, I'm crunching a fucking potato chip.
I'd never heard that in the song, just in the end, and I thought it was an apple.
yeah, I'm never gonna be able to unsee that now.
So I love sounds, and I love the texture of sounds. And to me, crunching a potato chip is one of the great sounds, just like the fizz of a soda pop and things like that.
I love this conversation around the words that we use to describe sounds, because it can be so abstract and so inaccessible for people who've never gotten into this before. I remember when I heard the higher frequencies being described as hard for the first time, and I was like, how can a frequency be hard? What?
Right. Yeah.
Or how can it?
And hard style is a certain type of bass drum, electronic bass drum.
Yeah. So this is all like, I feel quite fundamentally synesthetic, I believe is the word.
Yes.
In a way, yeah. I think most language, and your English teacher will never tell you this, but I think most language is metaphor. I don't think much language is as hard-coded as people like to pretend it is. I think that the rules of grammar can be, but even those bend, but they have more, the rules of grammar have more structural integrity than words do. And I think that the same word can mean different things to different people, and they're not wrong. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's kind of the beauty of language, and that's where poetry comes from, is the ability to use the same words but to indicate different feelings and emotions. And there's so much context that a word has, and often that context is your life experience of what was someone talking about when you first heard that word. When someone first said garden, were you looking at a potted plant in a windowsill in a city, or were you in an actual botanical garden, full of roses and majesty? The word garden is going to have the effect on you as a listener that it had on you when you had first been a listener to that word. Yeah. So when you're songwriting, I think and I do stand-up comedy as well, and that's where it became most apparent to me. That's the form of writing that is the most metaphorical, and where you really start to learn, oh my gosh, I'm saying a thing that means something to me, and it doesn't mean that to the audience. And the skill of a stand-up comedian as a writer is the ability to find the path that is most resonant. And it's still not for everyone in the room, but you need to at least get 75% of people laughing to fill the space. Yeah. And if you can keep 75% of people laughing at every joke, you're only doing that through the talent of the word choice. And the words you choose when you're writing it at home rarely make the people laugh in the way that you expect them to. Yep. And so stand-up comedy is a discipline of repetition in front of an audience, whereas music is often done, you don't really care what the audience has to think. You just get your song done and then you say, here it is, folks, love it or hate it. But stand-up comedy, they can't hate it or you're not a comedian. Yeah.
I mean, live music might have some parallels. Just a little bit.
If you're an improvisational musician, it can have parallels.
There's definitely some instances of that in during a jazz jam session where you
because if you lose the audience and they're bored, you don't feel right up there.
Yeah, totally. So the iconic moment of a jazz jam session is always when the saxophone player goes up and hits the high note at the end of the solo. It's when everybody goes crazy. It's like
almost always, right? Or horn.
That's like the equivalent of a joke that always works. Just
but you're a
get that sax higher.
And I've heard bass solos been described as the moment where everybody goes and grabs a drink.
Yeah, right. Everybody's on the phone.
Right.
Which I don't understand. Bass is one of the fucking coolest fucking instruments. It's
yeah, but it's not meant to be in the foreground. That's the thing.
I think sometimes it can have a place there.
Yeah.
I believe like
people figure it out. People figure it out because that's what they love. And Geddy Lee of Rush, he's a bassist and he's a frontman, and that's
Primus.
it. You got to deal with it. Primus, of course. Primus. He uses it almost as a percussion instrument and a lead instrument at the same time. It's like
Everybody go
it's
check
amazing.
out. I think it's Tommy the Cat.
Tommy the Cat.
And also Shake Hands with Beef is one of my favorites.
It's crazy that he does this almost rapping style singing while doing this crazy bass stuff. Like
Jerry was a race car driver.
Yeah.
22 years old.
I mean, I think what Geddy Lee does is kind of the most impressive live performer of all time. For me personally, I think he's playing incredibly complicated bass solos while like singing weird, hard to remember lyrics that have no like they're so poetic because Neil Peart was the writer, so he didn't even write them. So he's memorizing and singing another person's lyrics, creating the melody for them, keeping the whole freaking band together, and then going off on these crazy solos, stopping a solo, keeping playing rhythm while using one other hand on the synthesizer to do the synthesizer part. It's unreal. I mean, he's one of the most gifted performers that I've ever experienced. And a part of that, I think, is just being a nerd and fucking sitting at home and nerding out on your fucking technology and nerding out on your gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see
deep work?
Did you see South Park at the Red Rocks where Rush, Primus, South Park, and Ween, I believe, were all playing a song together at the same time live?
What on earth?
Oh, well, if you want to know music and pop culture, my favorite thing of it ever is Twin Peaks season 3, which each episode it's a drama. So the show is a drama. It's directed by David Lynch, and yet every episode has a musical guest. It is one of the most unique ways to incorporate music into a show ever, and it's seamless because the characters on the show frequent this bar. And the bar has live music in it. And so every episode you get a 3-minute break to hear just...
So it was like the Muppet Show a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. But the Muppet Show, you're in on the fact that you're in a theater.
Yeah.
All right, but in this show, you're not. It's a drama and you're in. It's shot like as if you're watching a movie. And yet, then you're going to get a break. 9 Inch Nails was one of the guests. It's incredible.
That's awesome.
But anyway, do you have any more questions for me? Because I've got about 15 minutes left in the tank.
So, yeah. We can think about ending this at any time. I think we've got so much good stuff already.
This is the longest one so far.
I hope it's good stuff. I hope people are still listening.
I was just having so much fun. I kind of forgot about the time. I'm sorry, man. We could.
It's okay.
That's the way to go.
Yeah, no, it was great, and I'm not upset about it at all. But I also would like to make sure I answered your questions because I am your guest. So
I think like I have had everything answered to satisfaction. And
I mean, there's one thing.
Elke has eaten the cucumber to satisfaction.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I mean, there's just one thing I kind of wanted to touch on from before when we were speaking about prog and electronic music, and I had the experience of coming from that world and then entering into the electronic, and my intention was actually to create electronic prog. And I feel like I accomplished that, like, for the first time on the Black Hole of Eternal Bliss, in a way that I really wanted to. But, like, what do you think about marrying these worlds of kind of more songwriting, coming from that background, and with the texturally centered electronic stuff that both of us do? And I also wanted to mention Spangle, people that, like, if you want to really feel like the soda can bubble equivalent of music, Spangle is the most textural music ever.
That's it. I'm looking up Spangle, all right.
Yeah.
But it's almost like meant to be, for me at least, enjoyed in headphones to really get the full textural effect of the music. But that's just something kind of vague I wanted to touch on, you know, because I feel like it's an untapped thing, because people tend to exist in these different worlds that tend to come from the songwriting side of things or the production-centered side of things. And there's not often, like, a lot of overlap.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's more about the medium of what their devices and technology is being used to create the song. So, so much of the texture of rock music and prog rock music is only going to be the texture that you can get out of an amplifier and the guitar that you're using. So, guitars do have different sounds to them, and different strings that you put on the guitar have different sounds to them. And then you have your post-processing, you have a couple of guitar pedals, and you have amplification, and you're kind of stuck with a limited set, especially if you're an independent artist, because that gear is fucking pricey. So that is a limiting factor. You got to get creative with it, and people certainly have, and bands have created unique sounds that still haven't really been replicated. Like ZZ Top, for me, has one of the most beautiful sonic textures and tones in rock music ever, and they made very poppy rock music. They have every girl's crazy about a sharp dress man.
That's a banger. Love that.
I mean, it's a fucking crazy banger, and it sounds amazing. But it's like the lyrics are every girl's crazy about a sharp dressed man. And they have another song called Tush, talking about a woman's ass, and another song called Gimme All Your Lovin', and and Legs, and like I love all these songs are great, and I have their album in my collection for sure. But what they did with one guitar, one bass, and a set of drums was they created a unique texture, and that gave them a brand identity, a sonic identity. And then when you heard ZZ Top, you heard these tones that you didn't hear from other bands. And how did they do that? They bought a specific set of gear. I don't know the true story. Maybe they were in a studio where they had the choices of a lot of different amplifiers. Maybe they had a great producer friend who had the smarts to give them that tone. We don't know, but once they settled on that tone, that was their tone. And I think with electronic music, the possibilities are far more endless because you're using software instead of hardware. Instantly, as soon as you say software versus hardware, what do I think? I think cost effective. Hardware is expensive. It has to be produced in a factory. It has to be produced with real materials out of the world that get dug up out of the ground by tractors. You know what I mean? And humans and people that are freaking working for fucking too low wages and getting that onto the assembly line. Then it has to be fashioned with hammers and freaking tools and machines. Now you get your freaking little guitar pedal, but what about the computer chip that's in there that helps make that sound and process that electricity? Well, that's got to be made in a different factory somewhere else. They got to be sent somewhere together to be fashioned and put together. That is why prog rock has less texture variance, not less texture, less texture variance.
Yeah.
But electronic music, when it comes to Spangl, he can pull these sounds and these textures out of the fucking yin yang because they're there. You can twist a knob that's not even a real knob, that's just a knob on your computer screen, and that can change the tone for you in a way that your pedal. My pedal only has 3 knobs on it. It can do a limited set of, tonal shifts. But I can add another pedal, digital pedal that's on my screen, make that work with this other pedal that it was not designed to work with, and just see how those two go together. What if I add a third one? What if I add a fourth one? What if I swap that one out for this one? And the possibilities are infinite up until the point of the infinity is what softwares have been created by people. So... And then the answer is thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands. And a lot of them are free. And so all you really had to pay for or bootleg was your DAW, your digital audio workstation. And the beauty of a DAW is that you have a undo button. So if you added one and it made it sound like a cacophony, you just undo it and it's gone. And you're back to the state of your work where you liked it. And so playing with music is the beauty that the electronic medium, the actual technology of the computer, that's what it's a great gift to whether you're a musician or not. It's a gift of play. It's a gift of experimentation with and the freedom to make mistakes and not care and not be harmed by them. And it's a gift that helps the poor. It's a gift that helps the poorer people out there because you can have a pretty low quality laptop. You can have a $400 laptop, maybe even by today, probably a $200 laptop, and it might be slow. And it's going to take you longer than it takes me with my $2,500 computer desktop in a music studio. It's going to take, I'm going to be way faster and my sounds are going to process and I'm going to be able to save files quicker and I'm going to be able to upload plugins and turn them on faster because I got more processing cores and all that. But on a $200 laptop, you can make music and you can make it for free. and you can make so many different sounds, and you don't even need to go to the friggin' thrift store to buy your guitar. So that's something that's pretty special. And now when like kids are being given laptops in American schools, I don't know if that's the case by you, but like every like 10-year-old has a free laptop from their municipality to take to school and do schoolwork on. So freaking upload Ableton to it.
Awesome. Yeah, go for it. Well, that's such a great way to end, great place to end the conversation. There's one caveat I wanted to add, which is I thought it comes kind of full circle there. What came up for me, what you said about even rock bands using sound design. They have sound design as well, or they are designing a soundscape every bit as much as you are, even though you go into much more detail with it, because it's exactly equivalent to what I was saying about music theory before. It's like everybody's using music theory, even if whether you know it or not, you are. Whether you know the names for the concepts that you're doing, whether the names for the concepts are major chords, minor chords, or high frequencies, low frequencies, you are using the things, whether or not you know what they're called. So. Yeah.
And when you buy your first guitar and your first amp, and it's like an amp that's this big, and you buy it and you plug it in, it still has a couple of knobs on it. And when you change them, your treble's going to go down, your treble's going to go up, and the bass is going to go down, and the bass is going to go up, and there might be an overdrive button that like really kicks out a ton of stuff.
I didn't even know what those things meant back in the day. I was just like high, up, low, down. I was like, does that mean the low notes on my bass are going to be quiet now? Is that what it means?
And the beauty part, Flammeus, is you don't even have to know what each knob means. You just got to listen to what happens when you change it.
Exactly. And that was my problem. I was too stuck in like, I have to understand what everything does before I can use it. And I
had that problem.
Same problem a lot of people have with music theory as well. Like, I have to understand this to use it. You don't.
Yeah. See, music's for everyone.
Exactly. Okay, that's an even better place to end the conversation, I would say. What about you, Hewkii?
I mean, I just wanted to add that one little detail about the conversation about sound design, that even like the way you like where you hit the guitar, where on the string, that is also sound design. That shapes the texture.
Totally.
And next time I'm on here, and I hope that there is a next time.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll talk about recording sounds, because that's a whole nother animal than the sounds themselves. And as soon as he said that, where you hit on the guitar and where you're strumming, and how hard are you hitting it and all that, like I think of some of my favorite albums, and why are they my favorite albums? Dire Straits, one of my favorite albums because it's one of the best recorded albums.
Right on.
And you can hear where the fingers are almost. I mean, you can't really, right? But it seems like you can hear where is his finger on the string of his guitar, and like how when he slides up, you can hear the like, foo, and like it's just a beautiful experience. I love music. I love recording music. So we'll be back, I hope.
Yes, hell yes. Sure. Thank you so much, Dane. This has been so fascinating and just lovely getting to know you. I mean, professionally and personally, just a great experience having you on. Thanks for coming. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much. And if I'm not a guest, then I feel like there's always a little bit of self-scrutiny as a guest, because I feel like I have to fill more space than I would in a normal conversation. I'm here, I'm performing a little bit, so I hope I didn't overtalk and take too much time. But we'll definitely have a regular chat soon after.
You did perfect, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So interesting.
I will put all your plugs in the description, so
thank you so much.
People can find you. But the name is just Dane Curley on Spotify. You can find the Cosmic Collaboration Machine.
That's right.
And we'll put in that Bandcamp link as well.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, danecurley.bandcamp.com, and there are a few different versions of the vinyl, and a couple of really limited ones I've found, like my backup copies, because you have to overpress when you produce a vinyl. You have to produce about 10% more because things get damaged in shipping, and that affects your edition count. So if like 5 get damaged in shipping out of 100, you only have an edition of 95. You don't have an edition of 100. So I was able to not have too many shipping issues. So I have a true edition of 100, and I made that available now. So there's like 3 of the Bicycle Day edition, and there's a few of like the artist's edition, who only the artists who were part of the song had access to purchase that. There's like 5 of those. So there's some really cool editions that are still available.
All right. Yeah, everybody go check that out. This is a very special album. I'm definitely going to be listening to it. My favorite songs certainly are on the jogging playlist already. So it'll be returning to those such bangers. Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, gents. You guys are awesome.
You too, man. See ya.
See ya.